Chapter 2406. Wolf God Lake Boom. Suddenly, a terrifying sound of water breaking came from behind Zhuowen. Zhuowen didn't even think about it. She immediately placed the Imperial Pill Furnace behind her, blocking Lu Haotian's attack once again. The Pill Emperor Turtle screamed like a pig being slaughtered from the Pill Emperor Pill Furnace. It cursed and swore, cursing Zhuowen and LV Haotian's ancestors. Zhuowen continued to go deeper, and at the same time, he sent a message to the Pill Emperor Turtle. What should I do next? Continue diving. When you reach the bottom of the lake, I will give you instructions. The Pill Emperor Turtle said with a grimace. Zhuowen shrugged. The Pill Emperor Furnace had indeed helped him a lot. With such a strong defense, Lu Haotian's attack did not have much effect on him. If it were not for the Pill Emperor Furnace, he would have been caught by Lu Haotian. On the other hand, LV Haotian gnashed his teeth in anger. He knew that if it weren't for the Pill Emperor Furnace that had ruined his plans time and time again, he wouldn't have let Zhuowen get away with it. In this way, the two of them reached the bottom of the lake. Zhuowen's face was pale, and a trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Although most of the attacks were blocked by the Pill Emperor Furnace, a small part of the attack still passed on to Zhuowen's body. In a short time, Zhuowen did not feel anything, but now that such a long time had passed, Zhuowen actually suffered heavy injuries. Hurry up and go forward. There is a coral reef there. Before entering the coral reef, you must push down a jade tablet in front of the coral reef, and then enter the coral reef. Remember, you must topple that jade tablet. Otherwise, everything will be for naught, the Pill Emperor Turtle said in a rare serious tone. Zhuowen hurriedly ran forward. Naturally, he kept the Pill Emperor Turtle's instructions in mind. Sure enough, after a quarter of an hour, Zhuowen saw a huge coral reef in front of him. In front of the coral reefs, there was indeed a jade stone tablet. This jade stone tablet wasn't very tall. Instead, it seemed a little short. It only reached Zhuowen's waist. Zhuowen didn't think too much about it. He immediately rushed to the front of the jade stone tablet and pushed it down. Then, he rushed into the coral reef. The moment Zhuowen pushed down the jade tablet, a light blue light shield immediately appeared around the coral reef. This light shield was semicircular in shape, and everything outside of the coral reef was kept out of the way. Do you think you can escape by entering the coral reef? Stupid. At this moment, Lu Haotian also arrived at the coral reef. When he saw Zhuowen enter the coral reef, he sneered. However, just as he was about to fall into the coral reef, he crashed into the light barrier. Then, LV Haotian awkwardly retreated dozens of steps and looked at the light barrier outside the coral reef with a grave expression. This light barrier wasn't simple at all. Even he couldn't break through it. Its toughness was beyond his imagination. At the same time, the originally quiet lake was now surging with undercurrents. Outside the coral reefs, pairs of scarlet eyes suddenly appeared. These eyes exuded a bloodthirsty light, as if they wanted to devour everything in the world. Lu Haotian also noticed the countless red eyes that appeared around him, and his face suddenly became gloomy. He felt that he was fooled, but he did not understand how Zhuowen knew that there was such a mechanism at the bottom of the lake. Zhuowen was not a person from the divine pill secret realm. Could it be a coincidence? Lu Haotian thought. Unfortunately, his thoughts did not last long, and the sound of water splashing could be heard. The surrounding pairs of scarlet eyes quickly rushed toward Lu Haotian. They were so fast that they arrived here in an instant. Only then did Lu Haotian see the appearance of the owner of these scarlet eyes. It was a creature that looked very much like a wolf, but although this creature had a wolf head, the lower half of its body was like a sea lion, with a black tail fin. Lu Haotian coldly snorted and waved the purple halberd in his hand. Suddenly, the wolf-like creatures at the front were blasted into a bloody mist by Lu Haotian's purple halberd. However, there were many of these creatures, and they surrounded Lu Haotian in a dense crowd. Moreover, when Lu Haotian killed some of the wolf-like creatures just now, the smell of blood completely stimulated the other wolf-like creatures. The other wolf-like creatures rushed toward Lu Haotian without fear of death, and they did not retreat because of the death of their companions. Lu Haotian's face was extremely ugly. He originally planned to kill the chicken to warn the monkey, But he did not expect to completely anger this group of creatures. Zhuoan, who was hiding in the coral reef, looked at the densely packed wolf-like creatures around him and could not help but be surprised. The number of these wolf-like creatures was even more terrifying than the evil spirits he encountered in Death Valley. If Zhuoan were to face these wolf-like creatures alone, Zhuoan knew that it would be very difficult for him to escape. Moreover, he was in the water, so his speed was even more restricted. What kind of creatures are these? Zhuoan looked at the Pill Emperor turtle and asked. This is the wolf god lake, and these creatures are called sea wolves. They are the only kind of creatures in the wolf god lake, and they are also very terrifying creatures. Because there are too many sea wolves, the entire wolf god lake is basically filled with sea wolves, densely packed together. Once you kill a sea wolf, you'll provoke the wrath of all the sea wolves in the wolf god lake. If all the sea wolves in the wolf god lake gang up on you, even a life-comprehending realm expert would suffer. Just wait and see. This little bastard hurt me so much, if I don't fight back, people will think I'm a sick cat. The Pill Emperor turtle said and looked at Lu Haotian, who was still fighting with the sea wolves in the distance. But how do we get out? Zhuoan asked with a frown. I know the way out. When the time is right, I will tell you. Don't you want to leave this annoying guy here forever? This guy is a big problem for you, and your spacetime wheel was also taken away by him, right? The Pill Emperor turtle said with a mischievous smile. Zhuoan nodded. What the Pill Emperor turtle said was right. Lu Haotian had chased after him several times. Moreover, Lu Haotian had put him in such a difficult situation. Zhuoan indeed wanted to eliminate him completely. However, Lu Haotian was a life enlightenment realm expert. This kind of expert was many times stronger than a half-step void sky ninth step cultivator. With his current strength, it was too difficult to kill Lu Haotian. I know what you are worried about. But I want to tell you that the Wolf God Lake is not as simple as you think, because the Wolf God Lake is second only to the Death Valley in the Divine Pill Secret Realm. If you want to get rid of Lu Haotian, you can only do it here. Once you get out, I'm afraid it won't be so easy. The Pill Emperor turtle said. Hearing this, Zhuoan nodded and said, so I'll just wait like this. Chapter 2407. Mysterious Divine Lotus Whoosh. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The sound of breaking water resounded continuously. Black shadows transformed into a terrifying black storm at the bottom of the lake, extending from the bottom of the lake to the surface. LV Haotian was wrapped in the center of this terrifying black storm, passively blocking the surrounding sea wolves that could attack him at any time. Damn it! LV Haotian's face was very ugly. He kept waving the purple halberd in his hand. The purple light energy was like a bomb, exploding continuously in the surroundings. It looked extremely strange and terrifying. Moreover, every time LV Haotian wanted to escape the encirclement of the sea wolves, these sea wolves were extremely cunning. They actually pounced on LV Haotian's head, blocking all of LV Haotian's paths. This also caused LV Haotian to be unable to escape the encirclement of the sea wolves. Although the sea wolves were not strong, there were too many of them. Even LV Haotian could not afford to waste so much energy. Time gradually passed, and soon, 3 days had passed. During these 3 days, Zhuoan basically sat cross-legged among the corals. At the same time, he also took a fusion divine pellet. He only had a total of 10 fusion divine pellets. After taking 1 fusion divine pellet, he found that the divine power in his body had instantly recovered to its peak. Moreover, because of the medicinal effect of the fusion divine pellet, his divine power was actually much stronger than before. And this kind of strength was not in terms of quantity. In fact, the total amount was still the same. The main thing was the change in quality. The Pill Emperor turtle was right. The medicinal effect of the fusion divine pellet was indeed terrifying. Just this 1 pellet alone made Zhuoan's body swell, as if it was about to explode. It was hard for him to imagine that if the Pill Emperor turtle had not fused all the divine pellets into 10 portions, but into 1, he might have really exploded and died. Thinking of this, Zhuoan was somewhat grateful to the Pill Emperor turtle. Although this guy was as unreliable as Xiao Hei, his heart was not bad. Moreover, the effect of the fusion divine pellet was very strong. It had almost healed Zhuowen's injuries. In the past 3 days, the number of waves has been increasing. That Lu Haotian is finish. The pill emperor turtle was lying on top of a coral reef at the very front. It looked at the countless black storm-like waves in the distance with a gloating smile on its face. Zhuowen looked at the black storm in front of him with pity. He could even see a struggling figure in the center of the black storm. He knew that it was LV Haotian. Originally, he had some doubts about Seawolf's strength, but now it seems that his doubts were completely unnecessary. If this trend continued, LV Haotian would soon be exhausted to death. Boom! Boom! Suddenly, the huge black storm in front of him erupted with countless purple lights. The purple light grew bigger and bigger, and more terrifying. Then, the originally huge black storm was directly shattered by the purple light. Countless sea wolves were smashed into smithereens, their flesh and blood mangled. Furthermore, the purple light was getting stronger and stronger, spreading towards the upper half of the black storm. More and more sea wolves were sacrificed. What's going on? How did this Lu Haotian suddenly become strong? Inside the coral reef, Zhuowen's pupils shrank when he saw this. The pill emperor turtle's eyes were calm as he said, "This LV Haotian should have used his trump card. However, the side effects of this trump card should be very great. I'm afraid this guy won't be able to use it for long. Even if it can't be used for long, it should be enough to completely break through the encirclement of the sea wolves." Zhuowen's eyes were cold. Zhuowen wasn't a blind person. He could see at a glance how terrifying LV Haotian's power was. At least, it wouldn't be difficult for him to break through the encirclement of these sea wolves. I already said that the wolf god lake is not that simple. The more sea wolves Lu Haotian kills, the more unlucky he will be. You can keep watching. The pill emperor turtle said with a mocking smile. Zhuowen looked at the confident pill emperor turtle. His eyes were filled with doubt. Could it be that the wolf god lake had some sort of secret? Although Zhuowen wanted to ask, he knew that he wouldn't be able to get anything out of the pill emperor turtle when he saw its current state. Kai. The more the purple light spread, the greater the obstruction, and the slower the speed of its ascent. At the center of the purple light, LV Haotian's eyes were red. A huge illusory heavenly bridge was floating behind him. The first 8 steps of LV Haotian's illusory heavenly bridge were all lit up. On the 9th step, a green lotus full of vitality was floating. This was the mysterious life divine lotus. Only when a cultivator advanced to the life enlightenment realm, this mysterious life divine lotus would bloom on the 9th step of the illusory heavenly bridge. The main function of the mysterious life divine lotus was to provide a steady stream of mysterious life divine power for the cultivator. It could be said that the life enlightenment realm cultivators relied on the mysterious life divine lotus to have a qualitative change in their divine power. This was also the main reason why they were much stronger than cultivators below the illusory heavenly bridge. At this moment, LV Haotian stepped onto the 9th step. He held the mysterious life divine lotus with his right hand and suddenly released it. Suddenly, the green mysterious life divine lotus slowly floated in the air and rushed up. The purple light that was originally obstructed by the sea wolves condensed into a purple vortex the moment the mysterious life divine lotus approached. Its power increased greatly, and the speed of its ascent suddenly increased. Let's leave this damned place first. When the time comes, I'll find Zhuowen to settle the score. LV Haotian's face was pale. He had no choice but to release the mysterious life divine lotus. One had to know that the mysterious life divine lotus was very powerful, but it was also very fragile. If a cultivator of the same level was here, it would be very easy for them to use the mysterious life divine lotus against him. However, LV Haotian had no choice. Otherwise, he wouldn't have released the mysterious life divine lotus. Countless sea wolves were crushed by the purple light, and LV Haotian was getting closer and closer to the surface of the lake. Looking at the lake getting closer and closer, LV Haotian's eyes revealed a happy expression. He knew that he was about to leave this damned place. As for the matter of chasing after Zhuowen, he didn't even think about it now. He was about to lose his life. How could he still think about chasing after Zhuowen? Roar. Suddenly, the remaining sea wolves that were lucky enough to survive let out sorrowful cries. Their cries were sorrowful and painful, as if they were asking for help. Their cries were distant and spread far and wide. Roar. The moment these sorrowful cries were heard, a thunderous roar came from the deepest part of the lake, as if it was responding to the sorrowful cries of the sea wolves. This roar was extremely terrifying and deafening. Even Zhuowen couldn't help but cover his ears with a look of horror in his eyes. With his current realm, to be able to give him a deafening feeling, how powerful would one need to be able to do this? The owner of this roar was definitely a terrifying existence. Chapter 2408. The Terrifying Wolf Godsplash. Zhuowen was horrified to find that the terrifying water current was actually causing the huge light barrier on the surface of the coral reef to tremble violently. This sturdy light barrier seemed to be on the verge of collapsing in the water current. Just the water current alone was already so terrifying. He wondered how terrifying the owner of the water current was. Thinking of this, Zhuowen's gaze became even more fearful. On the contrary, the pill emperor turtle was calm and composed, as if it already knew this would happen. In the depths of the coral reef, a pair of incomparably huge scarlet eyes could be seen. This pair of eyes was extremely huge, even bigger than Zhuowen's entire body. At first glance, it was very frightening. Then, a huge monster swept out from the depths of the coral reef. The water current it stirred up was like a water dragon, bombarding the light barrier, causing the light barrier to shake even more violently. Zhuowen was extremely worried that the light barrier of the coral reef would shatter in the next moment. Therefore, he secretly prepared himself. However, Zhuowen's worries were obviously unnecessary. Although the light barrier above the coral reef looked like it would shatter at any time, it was still extremely sturdy in the face of the terrifying water current. When this huge monster swept over the coral reef, it paused for a moment. It only glanced at Zhuowen and the pill emperor turtle below before ignoring them. Instead, it suddenly rushed out and swept towards LV Haotian in the distance. What kind of creature is this? It's so powerful. Zhuowen looked at the gigantic creature in the distance. This gigantic creature had an incomparably large wolf head. As for its streamlined body, it was covered with densely packed hard scales. Anyone could tell how hard those scales were. This is the wolf god. The wolf god lake is also named after this wolf god. All the sea wolves in the wolf god lake are the descendants of the wolf god. Generally speaking, the wolf god doesn't appear in the world. However, this guy LV Haotian has gone too far. He killed so many sea wolves. Do you think the wolf god will let him go? The pill monarch turtle sneered and continued, the wolf god's strength should be at the enlightenment realm. But in the wolf god lake, the wolf god has a unique advantage and can unleash its full strength. As for that LV Haotian, he was already seriously injured and consumed a lot of his divine power by the countless sea wolves. Now that he has encountered the wolf god, hey, Zhuowen nodded. This wolf god gave him a very strong sense of crisis, even stronger than Lu Haotian at his peak. Even if LV Haotian was in his peak state right now, he might not be a match for wolf god. I say, old turtle, my time and space wheel is still in LV Haotian's hands. Can I snatch the spirit ring from that old guy when these two guys are fighting? Zhuowen asked. Yes, but you have to avoid those sea wolves. Take some of the corals here and cover yourself with them. Then, sneak over, the pill emperor turtle said calmly. Zhuowen was a little puzzled. Could it be that this coral reef can help me not be discovered? The pill emperor turtle said indifferently, you are right. This coral reef is indeed useful. Otherwise, if you go out like this, wouldn't you be courting death? Although Zhuowen still had some doubts in his heart, thinking of the importance of the time and space wheel to him, he was willing to take this risk. Thinking of this, Zhuowen quickly collected a lot of corals around him. Then, he used his divine power to mix the corals into a thick paste and covered it all over his body. After doing this, Zhuowen's attention was focused on LV Haotian in the distance. At this moment, LV Haotian was very close to the surface of the lake. Within 10 breaths of time, he could definitely drill out of the lake. But what LV Haotian didn't expect was that the real master of the wolf god lake would appear. Boom! The terrifying sound of water exploded like thunder. Then, streams of water, like angry dragons, instantly broke through the purple light above LV Haotian. LV Haotian's pupils shrank. With a wave of his sleeve, he immediately took back the mysterious life divine lotus above him. At the same time, he took the illusory bridge and retreated rapidly. He looked at the huge monster behind him with an extremely unfriendly gaze. The arrival of the wolf god also caused the surrounding sea wolves to stop their movements. They all surrounded the wolf god and let out a series of mournful cries as if they were complaining about something. "You killed so many of my descendants, and you want to leave just like that?" The wolf god's scarlet eyes stared coldly at LV Haotian. His gaze was extremely unfriendly. LV Haotian took a few steps back and looked at the huge monster with fear. He could feel a strong sense of danger from the wolf god. He knew that this monster was very powerful, even stronger than him at his peak. "I didn't mean to offend you. I only entered this place because I was chasing a person. But your descendants indiscriminately surrounded me, so I fought to protect myself," LV Haotian said politely. The wolf god sneered and said, "No matter what my descendants did, you have no right to kill them wantonly. Now that you have killed my descendants, you can exchange a life for a life." LV Haotian's expression changed drastically. He kicked his right foot and immediately fled upward. Unfortunately, the wolf god suddenly swung his tail and a terrifying huge tail fin came crashing down like a wave. LV Haotian didn't even think about it. He took out the mysterious life divine lotus and blocked in front of him. The mysterious life divine energy in the mysterious life divine lotus was extremely powerful. The moment the divine lotus was taken out, the divine lotus bloomed. The terrifying mysterious life divine energy was like a rising tide that suddenly exploded. Boom! The tail fin and the divine lotus collided heavily. Immediately, countless water whirlpools erupted in the depths of the lake. LV Haotian's eyes were filled with fear. Even if he used the mysterious life divine lotus to block it, it was still difficult. Poochie! LV Haotian spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was extremely pale. His whole body was still holding the mysterious life divine lotus with both hands as he continued to sink. The wolf god's tail fin mercilessly bombarded LV Haotian. This really made LV Haotian suffer. Although the mysterious life divine lotus was extremely powerful and was the essence of LV Haotian's countless years of cultivation, it still paled in comparison to the wolf god's power. At this moment, the scene was extremely funny. The wolf god swung his tail fin and hit LV Haotian's body like a pile. LV Haotian, on the other hand, was holding the mysterious life divine lotus with both hands. He stood there in an extremely sorry state, following the movements of the wolf god's tail fin. He was constantly being blasted down, and he was sinking deeper and deeper. His clothes were almost stained with blood, and it was a shocking sight. At this moment, LV Haotian really couldn't speak of his suffering. He even cursed Zhuowen's 18 generations of ancestors in his heart. Chapter 2409. LV Haotian's death. The wolf god was too powerful. This kind of power made LV Haotian feel a sense of despair. If LV Haotian was not injured and was at his peak, he was confident that he could escape from the wolf god. But now, LV Haotian's injuries were too serious. In addition, he was tricked by Zhuowen several times before, so he did not care about his injuries. Now, the side effects suddenly appeared. Boom! The wolf god did not care what LV Haotian was thinking. He did not care at all and smashed down with his tail fin. LV Haotian only felt his whole body tremble. His face was incomparably red, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His hands almost lost their grip on the mysterious life lotus. Just as LV Haotian's entire body was shaking from the impact of the tail fin and was about to roll over, a sharp divine sword suddenly appeared in LV Haotian's right hand. By the time LV Haotian realized it, it was already too late. The divine sword quickly cut off LV Haotian's right arm. Then, a white hand pulled LV Haotian's right arm over. Poochie! How could LV Haotian expect this to happen so suddenly? By the time he reacted, his right arm had already been cut off and taken away. Zhuowen, you little bastard, I won't let you go even if I become a ghost. LV Haotian's reaction was very fast. He immediately noticed that the owner who cut off his arm was Zhuowen, who was quietly approaching. And it was also because LV Haotian's attention was completely attracted by Zhuowen that LV Haotian did not notice that the wolf god waved his tail fin again and smashed it down fiercely. Poochie. LV Haotian, who was not on guard, was directly hit by the tail fin. His whole body burst into a bloody mist, and his only remaining hand was directly blown apart. The mysterious life lotus in his hand was also thrown away, and its light dimmed. LV Haotian's whole body quickly fell to the bottom of the lake, but his resentful voice did not stop, and he kept on muttering Zhuowen's name. Zhuowen's eyes flashed, and he kept the mysterious life divine lotus that was thrown away. This thing was the source of power for the life enlightening realm, and it should be of great help to him in the future. After doing all this, Zhuowen didn't even hesitate as he rushed towards the surface of the wolf god lake. With such a terrifying existence like the wolf god, how could Zhuowen dare to stay here any longer? And because he was covered in coral juice, the surrounding sea wolves turned a blind eye to him. The wolf god looked indifferently at Zhuo when he was leaving. It had naturally noticed this human long ago. If it wanted to, killing this ant-like human would be as easy as flipping its hand, but it didn't. Pill Emperor Turtle, I'll let you off this time for the sake of the Pill Emperor fire. If you use me as a shield again, don't blame me for attacking you. A distant voice slowly passed into the depths of Zhuowen's mind. Zhuowen clearly felt the Pill Emperor Turtle in his hand suddenly tremble. Obviously, it was very afraid of the wolf god's words. Zhuowen realized that the reason the wolf god didn't chase them was all because of the Pill Emperor Turtle. Zhuowen finally looked back at the bottom of the wolf god lake and found that the densely packed sea wolves were all rushing towards the place where LV Haotian was at the bottom of the lake. Zhuowen could even hear LV Haotian's miserable screams. He knew that LV Haotian was completely finished. Under the suppression of the wolf god, LV Haotian was probably going to be eaten by countless sea wolves. Thinking that a life-enlightening realm expert of a generation actually died here, Zhuowen sighed in his heart. However, he was more happy. After all, LV Haotian was Zhuowen's mortal enemy. Now that he could get rid of him, he was naturally happy. Whoosh! The moment Zhuowen broke out of the water, he immediately felt many gazes directed at him. Then, he discovered that there were actually many cultivators gathered around the wolf god lake. Among them, there were also 5 half-step 9th step void realm experts, including the black-robed man. At this moment, all the cultivators looked at Zhuowen with tacit understanding, and all of them fell into a strange silence. Most of the cultivators' gazes fell on the severed arm in Zhuowen's hand and the multiple birth mysterious divine lotus. Zhuowen didn't even look at these cultivators. Instead, he fled into the distance. He knew that most of these cultivators followed LV Haotian here to pick up a bargain. He was too lazy to care about them. Not long after Zhuowen left, the cultivators around the wolf god lake were in an uproar. They clearly heard LV Haotian's resentful voice from outside. Now, in this strange lake, only Zhuowen appeared. On the contrary, LV Haotian was nowhere to be seen. Such a result couldn't help but make many of the cultivators present let their imagination run wild. The arm in Zhuowen's hand just now, could it be LV Haotian's arm? I remember LV Haotian's spirit ring, the black-robed man suddenly said. Impossible, right? Although Zhuowen is strong, he's only at the peak of the 7th step void realm. How could he be LV Haotian's opponent? One of the cultivators retorted. I think it's very possible. Didn't you hear LV Haotian's scream just now? Maybe LV Haotian was really killed. Another cultivator said. The black-robed man said coldly, did you see the lotus in Zhuowen's hand? That's the mysterious life divine lotus. It's a divine lotus that automatically condenses when a life enlightenment realm expert climbs the 9th step of the void heavenly bridge. And this mysterious life divine lotus is the source of life enlightenment realm experts' mysterious life divine force. It's more important than life. Do you think LV Haotian would give this mysterious life divine lotus to Zhuowen other than cutting off his arm and giving it to Zhuowen? As soon as the black-robed man said this, the surrounding people fell into silence. Although many people didn't want to believe that Zhuoan really killed LV Haotian, the details listed by the black-robed man showed that what they didn't want to believe was true. LV Haotian was dead, and he died because of Zhuoan. Although they didn't know how Zhuoan did it, the same thought arose in everyone's mind. They absolutely couldn't provoke Zhuoan. Once they did, the consequences would be unimaginable. In the following period of time, the news of LV Haotian's death gradually spread inside the Divine Pill secret realm. And Zhuoan, who killed LV Haotian, was once again remembered by many cultivators. Originally, many cultivators coveted Zhuoan's life or death pill, but after knowing that LV Haotian died because of Zhuoan, many cultivators gave up looking for Zhuoan. On the contrary, many cultivators specifically remembered Zhuoan's appearance and aura so that if they met him in the Divine Pill secret realm, they would immediately stay away from him. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to keep their lives. LV Haotian is dead, how did Zhuoan do it? Chapter 24:10. A considerable harvest. After separating from Yao Xiangjuan and the others, Palace Master Jing Yun had been looking for Zhuoan's whereabouts. However, she didn't find any trace of Zhuoan. Instead, she heard the news of Lu Haotian's death. Moreover, she later learned that Lu Haotian was killed by Zhuoan. Palace Master Jing Yun naturally didn't believe this. Although Zhuoan's strength wasn't ordinary, it wasn't enough to kill a life-enlightening realm expert. I'm afraid that Lu Haotian's death has something to do with this lake. However, Zhuoan was able to escape from this lake and even killed Lu Haotian. It can be seen that this child really can't be underestimated. Palace Master Jing Yun's shapely eyebrows relaxed. She guessed the answer that was closest to the truth. It had to be said that Palace Master Jing Yun was much calmer than Lu Haotian, whether it was her way of doing things or her way of thinking. It could be seen that although Palace Master Jing Yun's strength was about the same as Lu Haotian's, she was definitely much more difficult to deal with than Lu Haotian. Palace Master Jing Yun's shapely eyebrows slightly wrinkled. Her powerful divine sense slowly penetrated into the depths of the lake. She wanted to carefully investigate what was strange about this lake. Palace Master Jing Yun originally gave up her eyes and focused on cultivating her divine soul. Her divine sense was much stronger than Zhuoan's. Of course, the most important thing was that Palace Master Jing Yun's cultivation was much higher than Zhuoan's. If Zhuoan was also in the life-enlightening realm, with his terrifying starry sky divine soul, his divine sense would definitely far surpass Palace Master Jing Yun's. However, Zhuoan's current cultivation was too low. The gap between his divine sense and Palace Master Jing Yun's divine sense was still very big. Palace Master Jing Yun's divine sense extended into the bottom of the lake. Soon, she found a very familiar corpse in a coral reef at the bottom of the lake. Only bones were left of this corpse. The clothes on his body were also tattered. However, she still recognized this corpse from the tattered clothes. Wasn't this Lu Haotian? Palace Master Jing Yun carefully observed Lu Haotian's corpse. She found that Lu Haotian's injuries were as if he had been gnawed by some kind of creature. His corpse was almost distorted and incomplete. The condition of Lu Haotian's corpse strengthened Palace Master Jing Yun's guess. Suddenly, a terrifying divine sense gushed out from the depths of the lake and fiercely bombarded Palace Master Jing Yun's divine sense. Palace Master Jing Yun couldn't help but let out a muffled groan as she hurriedly withdrew her divine sense from the bottom of the lake. This is the Wolf Deity Lake, my territory. Please do not casually explore this lake, otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. When Palace Master Jing Yun retracted her consciousness, a cold voice echoed in her mind. After a moment of silence, Palace Master Jing Yun cupped her fists and said, "I have no intention of offending you. Farewell." After saying that, Palace Master Jing Yun left the Divine Wolf Lake. Although she hadn't exchanged blows with the master of the Divine Wolf Lake, she could tell that he was at least a life-comprehending realm expert from the powerful divine sense he had just displayed. He might even be more terrifying than an ordinary life-comprehending realm expert. Therefore, Palace Master Jing Yun cleverly admitted defeat and immediately left the Wolf God Lake. At the bottom of the Divine Wolf Lake, the wolf deity's scarlet eyes looked coldly at Palace Master Jing Yun's departing figure. It didn't chase after her. Palace Master Jing Yun's aura was very strong, and she didn't provoke it. Therefore, it didn't need to exchange blows with such an expert. Ever since the incident at the Divine Wolf Lake, Zhuowen's fame in the Divine Pill secret realm had increased exponentially. When all the cultivators talked about Zhuowen, their eyes would be filled with fear. As the main character of this incident, Zhuowen was currently hiding in a secluded cave, inspecting his spoils of war. This time, Zhuowen had obtained the spirit rings of 12 half-step Void Sky Realm experts, including the Begonia Elder, and the life-comprehending realm expert, Lu Haotian. Although Zhuowen had yet to open their spirit rings, he could guess that the things in these spirit rings must be extremely precious. First, Zhuowen opened the spirit rings of the Begonia Elder and the other 12 people. When Zhuowen discovered the terrifyingly rich resources in the spirit rings of the Begonia Elder and the others, the calmness in his eyes could no longer be maintained. They were filled with passion and excitement. The resources in each of the spirit rings of the Begonia Elder and the other 12 people were almost the same as the resources in Zhuowen's spirit ring. Although Zhuowen was only a 7th-step Void Sky Realm cultivator, he had endless opportunities. His wealth had long left other cultivators in the same realm far behind. Even ordinary half-step Void Sky Realm cultivators might not be as rich as Zhuowen. However, the Begonia Elder and the other 12 people were different. They weren't ordinary half-step Void Sky Realm cultivators. Each of them had lived for a very long time. Although they might not be the strongest in the same realm, they had lived for too long. Naturally, they had accumulated a huge amount of wealth that was far beyond the imagination of ordinary people. Although the resources in the spirit rings might only be a portion, it was still enough to make Zhuowen have a whole new level of respect for them. Especially the Begonia Elder's spirit ring, the resources were the most abundant. There were tens of thousands of high-grade divine pills and supreme-grade divine stones everywhere. There were also many Void Sky divine tools. Of course, there were also secondary heaven-breaking divine tools, but there were only 2 of them. After inspecting the 12 spirit rings one by one, the smile on Zhuowen's face became even wider. He knew that just the resources in these 12 spirit rings had far exceeded his imagination. He hadn't even started looking at LV Haotian's spirit ring. LV Haotian was a life-enlightening realm expert, so the things in his spirit ring must be even more abundant. Hey! What a powerful restriction! However, when Zhuowen habitually tried to break the restriction on LV Haotian's spirit ring, he found that he was obstructed. The restriction on LV Haotian's spirit ring was much stronger than the other 12 spirit rings. I don't believe it. Zhuowen didn't believe it and tried his best to circulate the divine force in his body. At the same time, his hands formed a series of seals, hoping to break the restriction on LV Haotian's spirit ring. Unfortunately, Zhuowen tried more than 10 times, but the restriction on the spirit ring was as immovable as a mountain. It was impossible to move it. Zhuowen was unwilling to give up and frowned as he looked at the spirit ring in front of him. The restriction set up by a life-enlightening realm expert is not so easy to break. The restriction in this spirit ring is not formed by ordinary divine force, but the mysterious life divine force. Unless you use a space-time divine ability, you might be able to forcefully break the restriction, but you might also destroy the spirit ring and destroy the things inside. The Pill Emperor tortoise laid on the ground with the pill furnace on its back and slowly turned its head to look at Zhuowen. Zhuowen didn't say anything, but he was unwilling to give up. I wonder if LV Haotian's mysterious life divine lotus can break the restriction on this spirit ring? Zhuowen seemed to have thought of something and immediately took out a green lotus from the spirit ring. He held the lotus with one hand and brought it to the side of the spirit ring. Chapter 24:11. Everlasting Ice Lotus's Abnormality. Zhuowen heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed like the mysterious life lotus was still useful. However, just as Zhuowen was about to open LV Haotian's spirit ring, a strange sound came from his spirit ring. Zhuowen frowned, and then he flicked his sleeve and withdrew a crystalline and translucent ice lotus. As soon as the ice lotus appeared, a wave of terrifying cold air spread out, causing Zhuowen's eyes to brighten slightly. It was the everlasting ice lotus. Ever since the everlasting ice lotus devoured the ice origin, its power had increased greatly. However, the ice origin was too powerful. Occasionally, when Zhuowen used the everlasting ice lotus, the ice origin would not cooperate with him. Hence, he could not unleash the everlasting ice lotus's full power. Because of this, Zhuowen rarely used the everlasting ice lotus. Moreover, the everlasting ice lotus had been damaged in the last battle, so Zhuowen let the everlasting ice lotus recuperate on its own and tried not to use it. Now that the mysterious life lotus had caused the everlasting ice lotus to react, Zhuowen was a little surprised and puzzled. However, he still took out the everlasting ice lotus immediately. After the everlasting ice lotus was taken out, it disappeared with a swoosh and landed on top of the mysterious life lotus. Then, Zhuowen was shocked to find that the mysterious life lotus, which contained a terrifying mysterious life divine power, was gradually withering. The surging mysterious life divine power in the mysterious life lotus was being ruthlessly absorbed by the everlasting ice lotus. After a while, the mysterious life lotus completely withered and became lifeless. In the end, it was completely annihilated. On the other hand, although the surface of the everlasting ice lotus was still crystal clear, Zhuowen could feel that the everlasting ice lotus contained an extremely powerful life divine power. It actually devoured the mysterious life divine power of the mysterious life lotus. Your ice lotus is not simple. Where did it come from? Pill Emperor Turtle also noticed this and could not help but ask in surprise. Zhuowen fell into deep thought. He had obtained the ice origin of the everlasting ice lotus in that mysterious small world. It was also there that he had first met Ma Yujie. In fact, when Ma Yujie was frozen between the corpses of the Devourer King and the five-clawed golden dragon, Zhuowen already felt that something was wrong. He didn't think that the ice origin would be powerful enough to freeze so many powerful creatures in the ice tower. Now that the ice origin within the everlasting ice lotus had actually taken the initiative to devour the mysterious life divine lotus, this made Zhuowen even more certain that the ice origin he obtained from the small world was not that simple. In addition, Ma Yujie really wanted the ice source in Zhuowen's hands. If it weren't for Zhuowen's quick reaction, the ice source would have become Ma Yujie's. No, why does this ice source feel so similar to the eternal time in the river of spacetime quicksand? Zhuowen held the everlasting ice lotus in his hand. The more he looked at it, the more familiar it felt. Soon, he realized that the ice origin was not really ice formed by water, but a kind of ice formed by water due to the eternal time stoppage. The small world that Zhuowen had entered back then was probably a time stoppage. However, Zhuowen had never considered it because of his preconceived notions. Now that Zhuowen had entered the river of spacetime quicksand and seen the eternal time stoppage, he realized that the ice origin and the eternal time stoppage were similar. It seems that the small world back then might have something to do with the spacetime master. Otherwise, that small world would not have been time stoppage. The more Zhuowen thought about it, the more he felt that Ma Yujie might have something to do with the spacetime master. Of course, Zhuowen did not know what kind of relationship it was. Zhuowen shook his head. He realized that the more he thought about it, the more confused his mind became. The relationship he wanted became more and more complicated. Of course, he was even more curious about Ma Yujie's identity. Although this fatty looked funny, he hid it very well. Your ice lotus contains LV Haotian's mysterious life divine power. If you can control it, this mysterious life divine power will belong to you. With the mysterious life divine power, I'm afraid that cultivators below the life enlightenment realm are simply cannon fodder to you. Pill Emperor Turtle interrupted Zhuowen's thoughts and clicked his tongue in wonder. Zhuowen then noticed the everlasting ice lotus in his hand. Pill Emperor Turtle was right. After absorbing the mysterious life divine lotus, the everlasting ice lotus's aura was extremely powerful. Furthermore, Zhuowen also discovered that if he used his mind, the mysterious life divine power within the everlasting ice lotus could indeed be used according to his wishes. The mysterious life divine power was the energy source of the life enlightenment realm. It was equivalent to the human heart. It was used to supply the life enlightenment realm experts with the life enlightenment realm's mysterious life divine power. However, because the life enlightenment realm cultivators were alive, The mysterious life divine power in the mysterious life divine lotus could be produced continuously. However, Zhuowen knew that the owner of this mysterious life divine lotus was already dead. Therefore, once the mysterious life divine power was used up, no new mysterious life divine power would be produced. However, the power of this everlasting ice lotus was still not to be underestimated. At least now, this everlasting ice lotus was definitely another trump card of his on the same level as his spacetime sacred art. Moreover, because the spacetime sacred art was limited by his realm, the mysterious life divine power in the everlasting ice lotus should be even more terrifying than the spacetime sacred art. With such a trump card, Zhuowen was confident that he could face a life enlightenment realm expert head-on. Opening LV Haotian's spirit ring, Zhuowen first found the spacetime wheel and carefully put it away. Then, he put away the other resources in the spirit ring one by one. Needless to say, the resources in LV Haotian's spirit ring were abundant. It was definitely far more than the sum of the spirit rings of the other 12 people. Zhuowen counted and happily put all the resources into his spirit ring. The Divine Pill secret realm is about to close. Don't you want to use the remaining time to explore? The Elixir Emperor turtle was still lying on the ground, looking at Zhuowen with its dead fish eyes. Zhuowen shook his head and said, "This time, I have collected enough divine pills. Moreover, I plan to let you help me fuse all these divine pills into fused divine pills that are suitable for me. The fused divine pills produced by your Elixir Emperor furnace are indeed magical." Zhuowen had experienced the effects of fused divine pills. It was indeed indescribable. Moreover, this Elixir Emperor turtle could be controlled by humans. During the process of fusing divine pills, it deliberately fused them into fused divine pills that were suitable for Zhuowen's physique. It could be said that a suitable fused divine pill was more useful than thousands of high-grade divine pills for a cultivator. Are you treating me as a coolie? Chapter 24:12. The birth of the Rakshasa King. Zhuowen rolled his eyes at the Pill Emperor tortoise. This guy really had the same personality as Xiao He. Zhuowen took out nearly half of the divine pills he had and gave them to the Pill Emperor tortoise. After asking it to refine more divine pills, he asked, "The divine pill secret realm is closing. Do you want to leave with me?" The Pill Emperor tortoise controlled the Pill Emperor furnace to collect all the divine pills. Then, it looked at Zhuowen indifferently and said, "You think too much. I definitely won't leave the divine pill secret realm. After I finish refining the divine pills for you, you can leave by yourself." Zhuowen frowned but didn't say anything. After all, this was the Pill Emperor tortoise's will. He couldn't force it. Next, Zhuowen quietly cultivated at the side of the cave, while the Pill Emperor turtle fiddled with the Pill Emperor furnace to refine more fused divine pills. Of course, while the Pill Emperor tortoise was fiddling with the Pill Emperor furnace, Zhuowen was still on guard. After all, he didn't want the Pill Emperor tortoise's furnace to explode again. Even if it happened again, he would have to escape in advance. Otherwise, he would definitely be tricked to death by the Pill Emperor tortoise. Fortunately, the Pill Emperor turtle was much more proficient this time. Many days passed in a row, but there were no mishaps like the last time. Zhuowen was finally able to relax. While Zhuowen was concentrating on his secluded cultivation in his cave mansion, the other places in the Divine Pill secret realm were just as usual. Most of the cultivators were in groups of 3 to 5, searching for traces of divine pills. As for the matter of the life or death pill, these cultivators tacitly kept their mouths shut. Death Valley, which was surrounded by black fog all year round, was still filled with the aura of death. At this moment, 5 cultivators landed on the periphery of Death Valley. These 5 cultivators were 3 men and 2 women. One of them was a handsome young man in white robes. He was a typical pretty boy. The cultivation of these 5 cultivators wasn't high. Among them, the strongest was the white-robed young man. His cultivation should be around the 7th step of the Void Sky realm. The other 4 cultivators were the weakest at the 4th step of the Void Sky realm. Yiran, this Death Valley is not a good place. Let's stay away from here. A woman in green robes looked at Death Valley and said with a frown. The corners of the white-clothed young man's mouth curled up slightly, but he acted as if he didn't hear what the green-dressed woman said. He smiled and said, "Do you think that my outfit is similar to Zhuo Wen's?" Among the 5 cultivators, the white robes of the Emperor Tortoises Yi ran, and she looked, "Why did you deliberately dress like this today?" The woman in red woman looked at the white-robed young man in white said. She was a little looks. The smile on the white-robed young man's face deepened, and he said, "I heard that Zhuoan is also a cultivator with the 7th step of the Void Sky Realm, but he obtained the life or death pill by luck. I can't help but admire his good luck. If I was there at that time, Zhuoan wouldn't have been involved, and the life or death pill would have been mine." The other black-robed man looked at the white-robed young man speechlessly and muttered in his heart, "What an idiot. Does he really think that he is Zhuoan just because he dresses like Zhuoan? Does he really think that he can obtain the life or death pill? He only knows how to daydream. The life or death pill was born here. I'll go and take a look. Maybe I can get another life or death pill. Just wait for a good show." The white-robed young man laughed and flew to the east of Death Valley. His figure was elegant and free. The black-robed man held his forehead with his right hand. This white-robed young man was just a temporary partner, and he wanted to have a chance to survive in the Divine Pill secret realm. However, the black-robed man didn't expect that the white-robed young man was a Chunibya. After hearing about the deeds of Zhuoan, he fantasized every day that he was Zhuoan. In other words, he fantasized that he was an expert more powerful than Zhuoan, and that he would be able to snatch the life or death pill from the hands of Lu Haotian, Palace Master Jing Yun, and the other experts. In the eyes of the black-robed man, this white-robed young man was simply daydreaming. The white-robed young man had just arrived above the black fog and was about to show off when a big hand suddenly grabbed him. "Let go, who are you?" The white-robed young man's face changed dramatically, and he looked at the black fog with fear. Unfortunately, the black fog was unable to clearly see the appearance of the owner of this large hand. All that could be seen was darkness. "You're too noisy. I know Zhuoan, and you want to criticize that Zhuoan? What qualifications do you have?" An indifferent voice came from the black fog. When the white-clothed young man heard this, his face immediately flushed red and he retorted, "That Zhuoan is only at the 7th step of the Void Sky Realm. I am also at the 7th step of the Void Sky Realm. He's just a bit luckier. If I had his good luck, I wouldn't have to worry about not being able to obtain the life and death pill and raise my strength. Trash like you. Let me tell you, if that Zhuoan wants to kill you, he only needs to lift a finger." The voice in the black fog was full of disdain. "Nonsense." The white-robed young man roared angrily. "Nonsense, there's no need for Zhuoan to make a move, I can crush you with one hand." The voice within the black fog was filled with impatience. It let out a cold snort. Immediately, the white-clothed young man let out a miserable shriek. He was crushed into a bloody mist by the large black hand. Even the illusory heavenly bridge was crushed into pieces. "Run!" When the black-robed young man saw this scene, he shouted loudly and was the first to run. Then, the other 3 screamed and ran away. Unfortunately, 4 black lines shot out from the black fog and instantly pierced through the 4 people who were running away. The 4 people who were running away fell to the ground one after another. There was no breath left, and they were clearly dead. After killing the 5 people, a bloated figure slowly walked out of the black fog. When the bloated figure walked out of the black fog, one could see that this person was actually not unfamiliar to Zhuoan, because this person was Ma Yujie. At this moment, Ma Yujie was surrounded by 9,999 1-foot-long black candles, and each candle was burning with a pitch-black flame. When the black flame shone on Ma Yujie's face, it gave people a strange feeling. "I finally got my hands on the candle of death." Ma Yujie waved his sleeve, and the candle of death was stored in his spirit ring. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At the same time, vague figures appeared in the black fog behind him. They looked densely packed and extremely terrifying. At the front of the countless black figures was a figure that was 1,000 feet tall. He strode forward, and every step he took caused the entire Death Valley to tremble violently. It was as though an earthquake was occurring. Bang! The giant figure finally stopped behind Ma Yujie. Then, it took down the huge, pillar-like sword on its back and stabbed it into the ground. Rumble. The long sword stabbed into the ground 10 meters in front of Ma Yujie. Then, the surrounding ground collapsed, but the square meter where Ma Yujie was standing was intact. Luosha King, are you going to attack me? Chapter 24:13. Fear. The Rakshasa king was over 300 meters tall and looked like a small mountain. Meanwhile, the countless evil spirits that surged out of Death Valley all stopped behind Rakshasa king, not daring to move recklessly. The Rakshasa king was covered in countless skeletons with a skull necklace around his neck and a skull helmet on his head. Even the long sword on the ground was cold and pale. It was obviously made of countless skeletons. 3 tall figures stood proudly beside the Rakshasa king. The 3 figures were very tall, about 30 meters tall, and their auras were much stronger than the evil spirits behind them. The 3 figures were Rakshasa guards that were carefully selected by the Rakshasa king. Each of them had been through hundreds of battles and were brave and good at fighting. They were the Rakshasa king's most capable left and right arms. The Rakshasa king's cold eyes stared at Zhuowen's back through the skull helmet and said, "What's your origin? You actually have the golden horn array flag and broke the seal of the death candle." Ma Yujie slowly turned around, looked up at the mountain-like Luosha king, and said, "Perhaps you have already guessed my origins. I think it's best if you follow me. I can guarantee that your life in the future will be many times better than being with the defy. The Rakshasa king's eyes flickered. He paused for a moment and sneered. "The defy created me, so he's my master. Do you think I'll betray my master?" But Ma Yujie burst into laughter and said, "Rakshasa king, this excuse of yours really makes me laugh my head off. I think you know better than me why the defy built Death Valley in the Divine Pill secret realm and cultivated undead spirits. His goal is only to continuously cultivate life and death pellets. You are all just nutrients for the cultivation of life and death pellets." However, he didn't expect that he would inadvertently cultivate a big guy like you. It's a pleasant surprise. A hint of disdain appeared in Ma Yujie's eyes as he continued, "But the Emperor Pill Fire is very wary of you. Later on, when it was injured, it set up 9,999 death candles in advance in order to restrain you." Rakshasa king fell into silence. He hesitated for a moment before saying coldly, "Hand over the candle of death on you, and we'll be even." Ma Yujie sneered and said, "We don't owe each other anything. Now, you owe me a big favor. If you don't appreciate it, then forget it. However, I have almost figured out how to use this death candle. If you want to be sealed again, then you can boldly try it." "How dare you speak to His Majesty like that?" Among the 3 Rakshasas standing behind the Rakshasa king, one of the Rakshasas with a graceful figure suddenly shouted. The Rakshasa's skin was dark green, and this female Rakshasa was also 30 meters tall. Although her face was extremely beautiful, her skin color and height immediately made her lose the delicate and beautiful feeling of a human woman. Ma Yujie sneered and waved his sleeve. Immediately, 9 death candles shot out from his sleeve. The 9 death candles silently surrounded the female Rakshasa in an instant. Then, the black candle flames connected together like black threads and spread out. It was as if countless threads of lightning were blasting into the female Rakshasa's body. The female Rakshasa immediately let out a miserable shriek. The flames of the candle of death had an absolute suppressive effect on them to begin with. Now that Ma Yujie had taken out 9 candle of death, it was extremely painful and torturous for her. "I'm talking to your master. Why are you interrupting?" Ma Yujie said indifferently. "Master, help me. I'm in so much pain." The female Rakshasa begged the Rakshasa king. The Rakshasa king looked at the female Rakshasa indifferently and then ignored her. Instead, he looked deeply at Ma Yujie and said, "Looks like you really know how to use this death candle. However, I'm afraid it won't be that easy for you to seal me again." "You can try." Ma Yujie smiled faintly. The Rakshasa king immediately frowned. Clearly, he realized that this ordinary-looking fatty in front of him had become a lot more difficult to deal with. "You're not qualified for me to follow you, so you should give up," the Rakshasa king said proudly. However, Ma Yujie shook his head and said, Looks like you still don't understand. However, it doesn't matter. It's fine if you don't follow me, but we can work together. Work together? Work together for what? The Rakshasa king asked in surprise. I want the thing under Death Valley. Tell me its exact location. Ma Yujia said seriously. The Rakshasa king was shocked and said, How do you know? You don't have to care about how I know. Now, tell me the entrance. Consider this my reward for helping you break the seal. Also, don't think about killing me with your own strength. With the death candle, you can't kill me, Ma Yujia said confidently. The Rakshasa king looked hesitant. The death candle was indeed very effective against him. Moreover, the fatty in front of him knew how to use the death candle. Just as Ma Yujia said, he really couldn't do anything to Ma Yujia now. I'm not too sure what's under Death Valley. Back then, the Emperor Pill Fire warned me not to touch that thing. Otherwise, there would be a bloody disaster. Why are you looking for that thing? The Rakshasa king said unhappily. You just need to tell me the exact location of the entrance. As for what I can do, it has nothing to do with you. Ma Yujia said coldly. The Rakshasa king looked pensive. Although he had always known that there was something under Death Valley, he had never gone in to see what it was. He had only heard about it from the Emperor Pill Fire. Moreover, the Emperor Pill Fire had very seriously said that the thing under Death Valley was an ominous thing, and it was best not to touch it. At that time, the Rakshasa king didn't care. Moreover, the entrance had a very terrifying restriction, so he didn't go in. I'll send you the information about the entrance through telepathy. The Rakshasa king finally nodded in agreement. After sending Ma Yujia the exact location through telepathy, he drew his long sword and carried it on his shoulder. Ma Yujia nodded. Then, he turned into a wisp of green smoke and burrowed into Death Valley. Clearly, he was looking for the so-called entrance. Ma Yujia's main purpose of rescuing the Rakshasa king this time wasn't to let the Rakshasa king follow him. His main purpose was to learn about the passage that led to the bottom of Death Valley from the Rakshasa king. And now, he had indeed achieved his goal. The Rakshasa king looked indifferently at the departing Ma Yujia. The 9 death candles beside the female Rakshasa had already been put away by Ma Yujia. At that moment, the female Rakshasa king was looking at Ma Yujia's back with hatred. Master, are we going to let this human go just like that? The female Rakshasa king said unwillingly. You still want to keep him? If you think it's possible, then keep him, the Rakshasa king said indifferently. Chapter 24:14. Army of Evil Spirits. Ma Yujia had 9,999 death candles with him. Facing such a terrifying number of death candles, she would be courting death. Let's go. Kill all the human cultivators in the Divine Pill Secret Realm. In the future, our territory will no longer be limited to Death Valley. The entire Divine Pill Secret Realm will be ours. The Rakshasa king's deep voice rang out. He held the giant bone sword in his right hand and swung it forward. Instantly, a terrifying gust of wind swept up like a storm. Under the gust of wind, the ground in front of him was shattered into dust, turning into a terrifying ruin. Roar, roar, roar. Roars rose and fell one after another. Then, the army of evil spirits behind the Rakshasa king swept out like a swarm of locusts. The scene was like a black cloud pressing down on the ground. The entire ground was dyed black, and the original color of the ground could not be seen clearly. The 3 of you, go and find the exit of the Divine Pill Secret Realm. Seal the exit for me. The Rakshasa king looked at the 3 Rakshasas beside him and waved his huge palm. Instantly, a black energy like black smoke fell on the 3 Rakshasas. When the black smoke dispersed, the 3 of them found out that it was 3 black stones. The black stones looked ordinary, but the 3 Rakshasas did not dare to underestimate them. They knew that the black stones contained the Rakshasa king's power. When they sealed the exit, they would definitely need the Rakshasa king's power. Otherwise, if a life enlightenment realm cultivator appeared, the 3 of them might not be able to stop him. Yes, master. The 3 of them took the 3 black stones and turned into 3 black shadows and left the place. After being sealed for so long, my strength has been greatly reduced. I'm afraid that I'm only equivalent to a life enlightenment realm cultivator. Now, I need to recover my strength as soon as possible. The Rakshasa king mumbled to himself, and the bloodthirsty light in his eyes became more intense. The Rakshasa king had already thought of a shortcut to recover his strength. It was to directly consume the flesh and blood of cultivators to quickly recover his strength. Moreover, the stronger a cultivator was, the stronger the divine power contained in his flesh and blood, and the better the effect on his recovery. Under the command of the Rakshasa king, batches of evil spirits began to spread towards other areas of the Divine Pill secret realm. However, many cultivators in the Divine Pill secret realm were still unaware of what was going on. They were still exploring the Divine Pill secret realm, hoping to obtain more divine pills. Moreover, as the closing time of the Divine Pill secret realm was approaching, many of the cultivators felt a sense of urgency. Thus, they became even more diligent in exploring the secret realm. In a lush and verdant forest region, the trees that grew here could be described as towering trees. Every single one of them pierced through the clouds. It was an extremely spectacular sight. There were quite a number of cultivators gathered in this dense forest. The main reason for this was that some time ago, a place of treasure had appeared in the woods. Many high-ranked pills were scattered around the place, causing many cultivators to fight for them. Because of the appearance of this place of treasure, many cultivators gathered in this dense forest to continue their exploration. In their opinion, this dense forest was so big. Since there was a place of treasure, it was impossible for there to be only one place of treasure. There must be a few more. Therefore, they were all hoping to get lucky and didn't want to leave this dense forest. This was also the reason why the number of cultivators in this dense forest was so high. On the branch of a huge tree in the southwest part of the dense forest, there were two graceful and beautiful figures. One of them was an ordinary-looking woman. She patted her heaving chest and said in surprise, "Luckily, we left quickly. Otherwise, we would have been surrounded by others." The woman standing in front of the ordinary-looking woman was wearing an elegant veil. Her skin was fair and white, and her beautiful face was revealed. This woman's beauty had definitely reached the level of being able to cause the downfall of a country. With just a single glance, she could make people's eyes light up, and they would be attracted to her face for a long time. "Senior Sister Yao, it's all thanks to you this time. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't know how to sneak away." The ordinary-looking woman looked at the beautiful woman in front of her with gratitude in her beautiful eyes. The beautiful woman smiled and said, "Junior Sister Zhu Rui, if it weren't for you, we wouldn't have found that place of treasure. Although we only got 30% of the pills inside, it's enough. When we get to a safe place, we'll split the pills in half." Needless to say, these two women were Zhu Rui and Yao Shangjuan from the Six Desires Heavenly Palace. Since the two women parted with Palace Master Jing Yun, they had reunited to explore the Divine Pill secret realm together. The two women were quite lucky. They had gained a lot along the way, and they could often find some scattered pills. This time, when they entered this dense forest, Zhu Rui accidentally stumbled into a place of treasure. After thoroughly searching this place of treasure, they caused a big commotion and attracted the attention of many cultivators in the dense forest. Of course, although their cultivation was quite good, it was impossible for them to face so many cultivators at the same time. On the other hand, Yao Shangjuan was very calm. She only took 30% of the resources in the treasure, and then threw out all the 70% pills inside to attract the attention of the other cultivators. She took advantage of the chaos and left with Zhu Rui. This was the main reason why Zhu Rui was very grateful to Yao Shangjuan. At that time, she was completely out of her wits. If Yao Shangjuan wasn't there, not only would she have been robbed of all the pills, she might not even have been able to keep her life. "Senior sister, I'm sorry to hear you say that. This time, the biggest credit is still yours. You should get more of it," Zhu Rui said uncomfortably. However, Yao Shangjuan smiled gently and said, "Junior Sister Zhu Rui, you're being too distant. You were the one who discovered the treasure land. Now that we're splitting it equally, I'm still the one who has the most benefits. Don't decline." Zhu Rui nodded when she saw Yao Shangjuan's insistence. She knew that if she continued to refuse, it would only make Yao Shangjuan unhappy. It was better to accept it openly. Seeing Zhu Rui accept it, Yaro Xiangjuan was quite happy in her heart. Senior sister, I heard that Zhuoan killed LV Haotian before. Do you think it's true? Suddenly, Zhu Rui said such a sentence without rhyme or reason. Yaro Xiangjuan fell into silence. After a while, she smiled and said, although I don't know whether this rumor is true or not, if this is really done by Zhuoan, the credibility should be quite high. Zhu Rui curled her lips. She felt that Yaro Xiangjuan trusted Zhuoan too much. She even believed this. LV Haotian was a powerhouse of life enlightenment realm. He had mastered a higher level of power, mysterious life divine power. He was not on the same level as the cultivators below Void Sky 9 steps. Chapter 24:15. The joy of hunting Zhu Rui was already shocked when Zhuoan killed a half-step Void Sky 9th step cultivator, but she could still accept it. However, the rumor that Zhuoan had killed Lu Haotian was too shocking. No matter how she comforted herself, she couldn't believe it. She was present when Zhuoan killed the half-step Void Sky 9th step cultivator from the Lu Shrine. At that time, Zhuoan had used all of his skills and even suffered serious injuries to barely kill the half-step Void Sky 9th step cultivator. If it was so strenuous to kill a half-step Void Sky 9th step cultivator, how could it be possible to kill a life-enlightening realm cultivator? Even if Zhuoan had a great fortuitous encounter in the Divine Pill secret realm, it was impossible for him to kill a life-enlightening realm cultivator in such a short time. Zhu Rui's doubts were reasonable. Not only Zhu Rui, but many cultivators in the Divine Pill secret realm also doubted the authenticity of Zhuoan killing Lu Haotian. After all, the gap between a half-step Void Sky 9th step cultivator and a life-enlightening realm cultivator was too big. Even if a life-enlightening realm cultivator wanted to kill a life-enlightening realm cultivator, it would be very difficult, unless it was a terrifying monster that was invincible in the same realm. Of course, if they knew that Zhuoan had schemed with the help of the Pill Emperor Turtle, the countless sea wolves of the Wolf God Lake, and the terrifying Wolf God to kill Lu Haotian, they wouldn't be so surprised. After all, the one who killed Lu Haotian wasn't Zhuoan, but the Wolf God that appeared with the help of the countless waves of the Wolf God Lake. Thump, thump, thump. The sound of a heartbeat suddenly resounded throughout the entire forest, as if there was an earthquake. This intense vibration immediately attracted the attention of the cultivators in the forest and the surrounding area. Then, all the cultivators subconsciously looked in the direction of the sound. Soon, they saw a scene that made them dumbfounded. What's going on? Zhu Rui frowned and asked subconsciously. Yaro Xiangjuan's beautiful eyes changed slightly. She jumped up and looked towards the northern part of the forest, her face pale. In the northern part of the forest, there was a dense mass of black dots. Countless black dots were scurrying around the area, rushing towards the forest at an extremely fast speed. Behind these countless black dots, an enormous figure that was at least 300 meters tall walked over with large strides, and firmly followed behind these black dots. Yaro Xiangjuan's beautiful eyes landed on the giant's body. She found that the giant was covered in skeletal armor, and there was a skeletal helmet on its head. There was also a huge bone sword on its back. When Yaro Xiangjuan's gaze landed on the giant seemed to sense it and slowly turned its head to look at Yaro Xiangjuan. Their eyes met. Yaro Xiangjuan's body trembled, and her face turned pale. The moment their eyes met, she felt as if countless thunderbolts had exploded in her mind. She felt dizzy and was about to collapse at any time. Yaro Xiangjuan hurriedly turned her head away. At this moment, Zhu Rui had already rushed to Yaro Xiangjuan's side. When she saw the countless evil spirit army in the north, her face was filled with fear. These are evil spirits. Why are there so many of them? Zhu Rui's body trembled. She was too familiar with these evil spirits. When the life and death elixir of Death Valley was born, a gap was opened in the eastern part of Death Valley, and countless evil spirits appeared. However, that was only a portion of the evil spirits in the eastern part of Death Valley. Although there were many of them, it was not far from the point of despair. However, it was different now. The number of evil spirits in the northern part of the forest was so great that it was possible to see them in a daze. The terrifying number was far beyond their imagination. The number of evil spirits that appeared in Death Valley was tens or even hundreds of times greater. A sense of despair that she had never felt before spread in Zhu Rui's heart. Junior sister Zhu, let's go quickly. If we stay here, we will definitely die. Yarou Xiangjuan immediately reacted. She then grabbed Zhu Rui's hand and fled towards the south without looking back. She knew that Palace Master Jing Yun was in the south through the flower petals that she had given her. Now, the only person Yarou Xiangjuan could rely on was Palace Master Jing Yun. With so many evil spirits, she and Zhu Rui would definitely not be able to fend them off. They would only be cannon fodder if they went over. Not only Yarou Xiangjuan and Zhu Rui, but all the cultivators in the forest also fled towards the south with fearful expressions. They could not understand why the evil spirits that had been trapped in Death Valley all this time would rush out at this moment. In particular, the 300-meter-tall giant that was following behind them was emitting an evil aura. Even if they were thousands of miles away, they could still deeply feel it. This aura was like a large, sharp hand, firmly grasping their lifelines in the palm of its hand, causing the fear in their hearts to grow even stronger. The aura of a human cultivator is really sweet. I haven't tasted a human cultivator in a long time. Rakshasa King walked forward step by step. He was not in a hurry to chase after them. Instead, he just followed behind them. With his strength, it would be a piece of cake for him to catch up and kill all the cultivators in the forest. However, he did not do that. He was now enjoying the pleasure of hunting. It was like a cat catching a mouse. Generally, after a cat caught a mouse, it would not be in a hurry to eat it. Instead, it would first release the mouse and let it escape. The cat would then follow behind until it got tired of playing. Then, it would catch the mouse again and start to enjoy the delicious taste of the mouse. Rakshasa King was currently enjoying the pleasure of hunting. When he got tired of it, he would make a move. Before he got tired of it, he would naturally let his evil spirit army make a move. He only needed to watch a good show from behind. Suddenly, the cultivators who were running at the back let out shrill screams. They were caught up by the evil spirits at the front and were then surrounded by countless evil spirits. The screams did not even last long before they immediately stopped. If one paid attention, those cultivators who were surrounded by evil spirits would soon turn into fleshless skeletons. The cultivators who were still running ahead felt their hearts turn cold when they detected this scene with their divine senses. Under the threat of death, the cultivator's speed was much faster than usual. However, this did not help at all because the evil spirit army was controlled by Rakshasa King. It was naturally easy for Rakshasa King to speed up these evil spirits. Therefore, the screams became more and more shrill and concentrated. The cultivators who fell behind were gradually being replaced by the evil spirit army and died. Meanwhile, the cultivators with higher cultivation bases who were at the front were all on tenterhooks. They wished that they had 7 or 8 legs now so that they could run faster. Yarou Xiangjuan and Zhu Rui were at the front. Zhu Rui's cultivation base was ordinary, but Yarou Xiangjuan was different. She was a genius of the 6 Desires Heavenly Palace and had many good things on her. Chapter 24:16. A Desperate Chase. Senior Apprentice Sister Yarou, what should we do? The speed of these evil spirits seems to be increasing. On the flying divine artifact, Zhu Rui was on tenterhooks as she looked at the cultivators behind her who were constantly being eaten by the evil spirits. Her beautiful eyes were already filled with fear. Although Yarou Xiangjuan had been concentrating on controlling the flying divine artifact, her divine sense was still paying attention to the rear. She had naturally noticed what Zhu Rui had said. She also noticed that every time the evil spirits killed a cultivator, the illusory heavenly bridge would be absorbed by the giant. The illusory sky bridge contained the essence of a cultivator's divine power. Clearly, this giant was absorbing the essence of the illusory sky bridge. Yarou Xiangjuan felt a chill in her heart when she thought that if she was caught by the evil spirit, not only would her physical body be gnawed beyond recognition, even the illusory heavenly bridge in her body would be stripped out and devoured. Not only Yarou Xiangjuan, but the cultivators running in front were also frightened, wishing that they could get as far away as possible. Unfortunately, their speed was limited, So how could they accomplish such a thing? As time went by, more and more cultivators died while the evil spirits behind them sped up. There were at least a few thousand cultivators who had escaped from the forest this time, but there were only about 100 of them left. Moreover, on the way to escape, there were naturally many cultivators who suffered this unexpected calamity and died under the suppression of the evil spirit army. Senior sister, these evil spirits are even faster than before. I'm afraid they'll catch up to us soon. Zhu Rui was trembling all over. Her face was pale and bloodless. She looked helplessly at Yarou Shangjuan, who was still controlling the flying divine artifact. Yarou Shangjuan sighed in her heart and said, "Junior sister Zhu, don't be afraid. I've already used the communication talisman that Martial Uncle gave me. I believe that Martial Uncle will be here soon." "Really? As long as the palace master is here, we will be saved." Zhu Rui's eyes shone with excitement. She knew that if Palace Master Jing Yun came, then they would definitely be saved. In the southern region, which was extremely far away from the army of evil spirits, there was a desolate desert. On a small sand dune in the desert, a beautiful figure stood quietly. This beautiful figure's face was covered with a light veil, and behind her was a group of similarly dressed women. These women were all standing respectfully behind her. "All of you enter my world of flowers first. I need to go rescue Ying Xiangjuan and the others." Palace Master Jing Yun pointed her slender hand, and a blooming red lotus flower appeared. The dozen or so women behind her entered the flower without hesitation. Putting away the flower, Palace Master Jing Yun stepped into the void and shot out like an arrow leaving a bow. Palace Master Jing Yun she didn't know exactly what had happened in the north. When she received the message from Yarou Shangjuan, she knew that something must have happened to Yarou Shangjuan. Therefore, she was worried about Yarou Shangjuan's safety at this moment. Miserable screams continued to ring out, and the number of cultivators fleeing in front was indeed decreasing, while the dense sound of footsteps behind them was indeed getting closer. "Save me! Save me!" Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream resounded. The blue-robed man at the back had his right foot grabbed by an evil spirit at the front. The blue-robed man stomped his foot in an attempt to kick the evil spirit away. Unfortunately, the evil spirit's right hand grabbed the blue-robed man's foot tightly. No matter how the blue-robed man kicked, he couldn't kick the evil spirit away. It was precisely because of this evil spirit that the blue-robed man's speed was immediately slowed down and became extremely slow. This gave the other evil spirits a chance. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws as they pounced on the blue-robed man. They actually began to tear apart his flesh. "Bastard!" The blue-robed man's eyes turned red from the pain. He roared and immediately summoned the illusory sky bridge. Then, the illusory sky bridge began to self-destruct. Rumble. The terrifying energy ripples produced by the illusory sky bridge's self-destruction suddenly spread out in all directions. Then, the group of evil spirits at the front were blasted into countless pieces by this terrifying energy ripple. It was precisely this blue-robed man's self-destruction of the illusory sky bridge that slowed down the speed of the aggressive evil spirit army behind them. In just an instant, Yarou Shangjuan and the others pulled apart the distance between them and the evil spirit army. Thump, thump, thump. Behind them, the Rakshasa king narrowed her eyes and looked at the blue-robed man who had self-destructed the illusory sky bridge with extreme hostility. The Rakshasa king suddenly stretched out her right hand and pinched the ball of energy from the illusory sky bridge's self-destruction. Then, she opened her bloody mouth and swallowed the terrifying explosive energy in one gulp. The Rakshasa king's move naturally cleared away the obstacles in front of the evil spirit army, and the evil spirits continued to rush forward in a frenzy. Their speed was actually much faster than before. Where did that giant come from? He swallowed the illusory sky bridge's self-destruction just like that. On the flying divine artifact, Zhu Rui looked at the illusory sky bridge that swallowed the blue-robed man's self-destruction as if nothing had happened. Her beautiful eyes involuntarily widened. The blue-robed man's cultivation was not weak. The three cultivators did not even have the time to self-destruct their illusory bridges before dying. Logically speaking, it only took a thought to self-destruct the illusory sky bridge. It was impossible for them to die before they could even self-destruct the illusory sky bridge. Yarou Xiangjuan noticed this problem and could not help but look behind her. She immediately saw the mockery and indifference in the giant's eyes. Yarou Xiangjuan's heart skipped a beat. She knew that the reason the 3 cultivators did not have time to self-destruct the illusory sky bridge was probably related to this giant. After 10 breaths of time, the last cultivator behind Yarou Xiangjuan also let out a miserable scream and was completely drowned by countless evil spirits. Chapter 2417.it was a shocking sight. Zhu Rui was curled up on the flying divine artifact. She could not get rid of the despair in her eyes. Especially when she saw the army of evil spirits getting closer and closer, the despair in her eyes became more and more intense. Zhu Rui's mental endurance had reached its limit as she watched the cultivators behind her die tragically in the hands of the evil spirit army. "Senior sister, are we all going to die here?" Zhu Rui muttered to herself in despair. Yarou Xiangjuan hurriedly said, "Junior sister, don't be discouraged. Martial uncle is coming to save us soon. Let's hold on for a little longer." Zhu Rui shook her head. Her eyes were filled with despair, but she fell silent. She knew that Palace Master Jing Yun was on the way. However, the army of evil spirits was approaching them step by step. It was as if they would be buried in the hands of these ferocious evil spirits in the next moment. This feeling of despair caused Zhu Rui to lose all hope. Bang! Suddenly, the evil spirit at the front leaped up. With a ferocious roar, it slammed its palm on the edge of the flying divine artifact behind them. The terrifying force caused the flying divine artifact to shake violently. Yarou Xiangjuan's eyes narrowed. She took a deep breath and immediately controlled the flying divine artifact to stabilize it. It was also because of the shaking that the flying divine artifact's speed decreased a little. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Several more evil spirits took advantage of the moment when the flying divine artifact slowed down and leaped up. One of the evil spirits grabbed at Zhu Rui. Zhu Rui was still in a daze. At this moment, when the evil spirit grabbed at her, Zhu Rui did not react at all. "Junior sister, be careful," Yarou Xiangjuan shouted. She pushed her hand out. Blue divine power was like a stream of water as it blasted towards the evil spirit. Fart! The evil spirit was immediately blasted into pieces by the divine power. It turned into dust and scattered with the wind. However, the remaining evil spirits on the flying divine artifact howled and pounced at Yarou Xiangjuan and Zhu Rui respectively. Yarou Xiangjuan's eyes were solemn. She circulated her divine power and blasted all the evil spirits that pounced at her into pieces. At this moment, Zhu Rui was still in a state of absent-mindedness. Or it could be said that she was in complete despair. She didn't notice the danger around her at all. At this moment, not only did Yarou Xiangjuan have to deal with the evil spirits pouncing towards her, she also had to help Zhu Rui clean up the evil spirits on Zhu Rui's side. At the same time, Yarou Xiangjuan had to split her attention to control the flying divine artifact to prevent more evil spirits from catching up. She knew very well that if the flying divine artifact was drowned by the evil spirit army behind them, the consequences would be unimaginable. Even if she had wings, she would not be able to escape. "Junior sister Zhu Rui, wake up. If this continues, we're all going to die." Yarou Xiangjuan was under a lot of pressure now. She had no choice but to wake Zhu Rui up. Unfortunately, Zhu Rui was like a zombie. She sat on the flying god artifact without moving and turned a deaf ear to Yarou Xiangjuan's words. Yarou Xiangjuan, on the other hand, was extremely anxious. Seeing more and more evil spirits pouncing on the flying divine artifact, she knew that if this continued, they would definitely be done for. Thinking of this, Yarou Xiangjuan flipped her jade-like hand and took out the time core from her spirit ring. She had obtained the time core from the river of spacetime quicksand and it contained an extremely powerful spacetime power. Her flying divine artifact was indeed fast, but a lot of credit went to the spacetime core. Otherwise, an ordinary flying divine artifact would not have allowed Yarou Xiangjuan to easily lead the other cultivators. Yarou Xiangjuan held the time core in her right hand and waves of spacetime power flowed out. Instantly, The countless evil spirits that were pouncing on them were all crushed into powder under the effect of this spacetime power. Moreover, this spacetime power grew increasingly powerful and terrifying as it radiated toward the rear. The evil spirits that had been chasing after them all collapsed the moment they came into contact with the spacetime energy. They couldn't be any more dead. In an instant, the original crisis was immediately resolved by the spacetime core that Yarou Shengjuan took out. Luo Shouqing, who was following behind the evil spirit army, also noticed the time core in Yarou Shengjuan's hand. The spacetime power. Is this little girl holding the time core in her hand? I didn't expect it to be the spacetime core in the spacetime roulette. Luo Shouqing murmured in a low voice as an extremely sharp light burst out from his eyes. Then, he took a step forward and suddenly stepped forward toward the flying divine artifact that Yarou Shengjuan was on. Luo Shouqing was very fast. He instantly passed through countless evil spirits and arrived at the front. Bang! Luo Shouqing's huge palm reached forward and was about to grab the flying divine artifact that was inside Yarou Shengjuan's body in his hand when he was blocked by the surging spacetime power. Not bad. What a powerful spacetime power. But is this all you've got? Luo Shouqing's voice was extremely deafening like thunder. It constantly reverberated in the sky like the might of the heavens. Luo Shouqing snorted coldly and suddenly exerted force in his palm. Immediately, there was a cracking sound. Yarou Shengjuan used the time core as a medium and used the spacetime power to form a net behind her, forming an extremely powerful defense. However, now that Luo Shouqing had attacked, it immediately caused the defense formed by the spacetime power to shake violently and countless cracks appeared on its surface. Chapter 24:18 Protect. Yarou Shengjuan stood at the end of the flying divine artifact, her slender hands pressed against the spacetime core. In front of Yarou Shengjuan, the 300-meter-tall giant kept smashing its fists at her as if it had gone mad. The spacetime core's defenses were on the verge of collapsing and exploding. Meanwhile, Yarou Shengjuan stood there quietly. Blood stained her clothes, abdomen, and even flowed to her feet. A small puddle of blood had gathered at Yarou Shengjuan's feet. The puddle of blood was a ghastly sight, and it was difficult to look away for a long time. Senior sister. Zhu Rui realized that she had done something stupid and couldn't help but call out softly. Boom. Suddenly, the Rakshasa king's palm came crashing down again. This time, the force was unprecedentedly terrifying and powerful. When the palm came down, terrifying ripples appeared in the surrounding space, and the sound of air exploding rang out continuously. The instant the palm smashed into the spacetime core's defenses, countless cracks finally appeared on the spacetime core's defenses. Then, the cracks exploded and finally shattered. Splat! Yarou Shengjuan was sent flying by the terrifying force and fell out of the flying divine artifact. Senior sister, Zhu Rui screamed shrilly. She wanted to pounce forward and hug Yarou Shengjuan, but the moment she did, she realized that a sparkling and translucent talisman had appeared in Yarou Shengjuan's hand. Junior sister, crush this talisman and run. If you meet senior sister, tell her to run as well. Don't come here. This monster is too terrifying. I'm afraid even senior sister is no match for it. The moment the talisman appeared in Zhu Rui's hand, Yarou Shengjuan's weak voice sounded in her ears. Zhu Rui shook her head. She recognized the talisman. It was a life-saving item that Yarou Shengjuan's master had left for her. Now that Yarou Shengjuan had given it to her at such a critical moment, Zhu Rui couldn't accept it at all. She didn't dare to accept it either. She thought of the foolish things she had done before. She knew that if Yarou Shengjuan hadn't protected her with all her might, she would have been killed by the evil spirit. It could be said that she had caused all of this. However, Zhu Rui quickly realized that the talisman had already been activated when it was handed to her. Before she could even react, a strange force wrapped around her. Then, Zhu Rui turned into a ray of blue light and disappeared from the spot. Yarou Shengjuan looked at Zhu Rui, who had turned into a blue line and disappeared. She couldn't help but smile. Then, like a falling leaf, she slowly fell from the sky. Below Yarou Shengjuan, countless evil spirits gathered. Once Yarou Shengjuan fell, she would be completely devoured by these evil spirits. The Rakshasa king narrowed his eyes as he watched Zhu Rui disappear into a blue line. He had no intention of chasing after her. His huge palm grabbed the hollow space in his hand. His eyes flickered and no one knew what he was thinking. He didn't even care about Yarou Shangjuan, who was about to fall. Roar! 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 The moment Yarou Shangjuan fell, countless evil spirits pounced over, densely packed, and instantly drowned Yarou Shangjuan. Yarou Shangjuan looked at the sky that was gradually being replaced by evil spirits. Bitterness and reluctance appeared at the corner of her mouth. In her mind, at the moment of her death, she didn't know why, but the only thing she thought of was that figure. In the future, I probably won't be able to see him again. And he probably won't know whether I'm Yarou Shangjuan or Yarou Shangjuan, right? If possible, I really want to say that I'm not Yarou Shangjuan, I'm Yarou Shangjuan. Yarou Shangjuan murmured in a low voice and slowly closed her beautiful eyes. Boom! A terrifying explosion suddenly sounded. The Rakshasa king, who had been looking at the hollow space in a daze, was immediately attracted by the explosion. Then, he realized that an extremely terrifying force was coming from the place where the evil spirits gathered not far away. Then, countless evil spirits were blasted out like countless raindrops. It was an extremely spectacular sight. In an instant, a gap of several hundred miles was blasted out of the countless evil spirits. All of the evil spirits within this range were annihilated by this force. Only then did the Rakshasa king clearly see the source of this force. He saw Yarou Shangjuan floating in the middle of this gap with her eyes slightly closed. The surface of her body was covered by a layer of invisible and colorless energy ripples. The energy ripples spread out in all directions and rushed into the sky, transforming into a blurry figure. At a closer look, this figure should be the figure of a woman. She wore an illusory crown on her head and exuded a solemn aura. A divine energy of life and death. This human woman's identity is not ordinary. There's actually an expert of the two extremes of life and death who set up this layer of protection on her body. Looks like I misjudged. The Rakshasa king's eyes narrowed. Then, a sinister smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He continued, the divine energy of life and death is to my liking. Break this defense and I'll absorb all of this woman's divine energy. Perhaps I can even absorb the remaining divine energy of life and death in her body. Thinking of this, the Rakshasa king strode forward. Then, he suddenly punched out with his right fist and blasted it unceremoniously at the defense, emitting a holy light. Bang! 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 However, this layer of protection was set up on Yarou Shangjuan by an expert of the two extremes of life and death after all. The Rakshasa king could not break it open in a short time. However, the Rakshasa king was not discouraged. At his peak, he had the strength of the two extremes of life and death. Although he had regressed to the strength of the life comprehension realm, he was not facing an expert of the two extremes of life and death. However, what he was facing right now was not the true body of an expert at the extreme realm of life and death. Instead, it was just a defense that the expert had set up on a junior. The Rakshasa king knew that this defense was destined to be limited. Once the energy of this defense was completely exhausted, it would not be a threat to him at all. Thinking of this, the Rakshasa king repeatedly blasted the defense on Yarou Shangjuan's body as if he was possessed. Meanwhile, Yarou Shangjuan had already fainted due to her heavy injuries. Even if she had not fainted, she would not be of any help. In a remote valley thousands of miles away from the army of evil spirits, Zhuowen walked out of his cave with a frown. He floated in the air and spread out his powerful divine sense. He immediately saw the densely packed army of evil spirits thousands of miles away. Of course, he also saw the Rakshasa king that was hundreds of meters tall. Although Zhuowen had never seen the Rakshasa king before, the Rakshasa king's aura and appearance were too similar to the Rakshasa he had encountered before. Moreover, the aura of this giant was much more terrifying than that of the Rakshasa he had encountered before. He thought of a bad possibility. Zhuowen soon noticed the Rakshasa king's actions. It seemed to be bombarding something. Only then did his divine sense fall on Yarou Shangjuan, who was under the protection. Miss Xiangjuan? Why is she here? Chapter 24:19. The best opportunity. Zhuowen's eyes flickered as he looked at the Demon King attacking Yarou Xiangjuan's protective layer. His face turned gloomy. At this moment, the Pill Emperor Tortoise slowly walked out of the cave dwelling. It had been helping Zhuowen to refine the fusion divine pills. Now, it had finally finished refining the fusion divine pills that Zhuowen had ordered. As soon as the Pill Emperor Tortoise came out, it felt that something was wrong. It asked subconsciously, "What are you looking at?" Zhuowen looked at the front and said seriously, "I'm asking if that's the Demon King." The Pill Emperor Tortoise was stunned, then it laughed, "Are you kidding me? The Demon King is still sealed in the Death Valley, how could it?" As it spoke, the Pill Emperor Tortoise turned around and looked at the giant in front of it. Its body trembled as if it had seen a ghost. "Demon King? What's going on?" The Pill Emperor Tortoise couldn't help but exclaim in disbelief. "I was about to ask you the same thing. Previously, I risked my life to enter the Death Valley and place the death candle around the altar according to your orders. I thought that it would be able to seal the Demon King, but..." Zhuowen's voice was cold. The Pill Emperor Tortoise coughed a few times and said, "Zhuowen, I think I should leave the Divine Pill Secret Realm with you. This place is no longer suitable for me." Zhuowen looked at the Pill Emperor Tortoise in front of him with a strange gaze. This guy couldn't be afraid of the Demon King, right? This guy had clearly vowed not to leave the Divine Pill Secret Realm. The Demon King has broken the seal. Don't you have any other way to save it? Zhuowen said coldly. The Pill Emperor Tortoise smiled embarrassedly. "You're thinking too much. How can I save it? Since the death candle couldn't seal it, don't expect me to subdue it. Now that we see this guy, the first thing we do is run." Zhuowen looked at the Pill Emperor Tortoise speechlessly. If Yarou Xiangjuan wasn't there, Zhuowen would have the same thought as the Pill Emperor Tortoise. However, after knowing that Yarou Xiangjuan was in danger, with Zhuowen's personality, he couldn't just sit and watch. "Hey, what are you hesitating for? Hurry up and run. If you don't run now, it will be too late. When the Demon King finds us, we'll be finished." When the Pill Emperor Turtle saw that Zhuowen wasn't planning on running away, it couldn't help but remind him. "You go first. I still have to save people," Zhuowen said indifferently. "What? You want to save people? Don't tell me you want to save that woman," the Pill Emperor Turtle hurriedly said. The Pill Monarch Tortoise naturally noticed Yarou Xiangjuan before, but it didn't have any impression of her, so it didn't pay much attention to her. Yarou 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 Chi Tortoise Tortoises Demon A's God didn't. It was no stranger to this energy and knew that it was the divine power of life and death. This woman's background should not be low. Otherwise, it would be impossible for a life and death stage expert to set up a protective barrier around her. "I say, Zhuowen, why are you taking the initiative to get involved in this mess? I'm telling you, you're just going to die if you go," Pill Emperor Turtle said earnestly. "She's my friend," Zhuowen said seriously. The Pill Emperor Tortoise was choked by Zhuowen's words. He said angrily, "So what if she's your friend? You know it's dangerous, yet you still want to die. Don't worry about it." Zhuowen ignored him. He slowly withdrew his aura and planned to save Yarou Xiangjuan. However, he was stopped by the Pill Emperor Tortoise. "What's wrong?" Zhuowen asked with a frown. The Pill Emperor Tortoise looked at Zhuowen with a complicated expression and said, "Do you know why those evil spirits haven't noticed us yet?" Zhuowen was startled. Hearing the Pill Emperor Tortoise's words, Zhuowen realized that with the 5 senses of the evil spirits, even if he was thousands of miles away, they should have noticed him. Even if those evil spirits weren't high level and couldn't sense them, the Demon King should have sensed something. However, the Demon King seemed to be pretending to be deaf and mute. He didn't even look in their direction. The Pill Emperor Tortoise didn't mention it before, so Zhuowen didn't realize it. Now, he realized it. The perception of evil spirits is different from you human cultivators. They can sense vitality. All living beings have vitality. This kind of vitality can be sensed by evil spirits from very far away, the Pill Emperor Tortoise said calmly. You mean to say that our anger has been concealed? Zhuo Wen asked in surprise. Nonsense, of course it has been concealed by the wise and divine Lord Tortoise. Otherwise, Demon King wouldn't notice you if you stared at him like that. Dream on, the Pill Emperor Tortoise said proudly. Is it because of the Pill Emperor furnace? Zhuoan looked at the Pill Emperor furnace on the Pill Emperor Tortoise's back with a surprised expression. This Pill Emperor furnace appeared in Death Valley. When he saw the Pill Emperor Tortoise's expression, he knew that this Pill Emperor furnace had an inseparable relationship with the Pill Emperor fire of the Divine Pill Secret Realm. The Pill Emperor Tortoise's expression froze. He coughed dryly and said, "The Pill Emperor furnace has some influence, but it's mainly because of Lord Tortoise's control. Help me get closer to the evil spirits." Zhuoan looked at the Pill Emperor Tortoise seriously. The Pill Emperor Tortoise hesitated and said, "Okay, but you have to be careful." Zhuoan nodded. He held the shrunken Pill Emperor furnace in his hand and began to slowly approach the army of evil spirits in front of him. With the Pill Emperor furnace concealing his vitality, the army of evil spirits basically couldn't sense Zhuoan's approach. Even the Rakshasa king wouldn't be able to detect Zhuoan's presence if he didn't search carefully. When Zhuoan was about 100 meters away from the army of evil spirits, he stopped. He found a rather remote grove and crouched down, silently observing the Rakshasa king. At this moment, the Demon King's attention was completely focused on Yarrow Shangjuan. It was smashing the protective energy around Yarrow Shangjuan like a madman. How could it notice Zhuoan's figure in the remote small forest 100 meters away? Of course, even if the Demon King noticed, it probably wouldn't care too much. After all, Zhuoan's vitality was too weak. It was only at the 7th level of the Void Sky. Such a cultivator was simply not worth mentioning in the eyes of the Demon King, let alone having any effect on it. Zhuoan silently looked at the powerful protective energy around Yarrow Shangjuan's body. Chapter 2420. Saving someone. Boom. 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 The Rakshasa king's eyes turned scarlet. The frequency of his punches became faster and more frequent. Almost every punch could set off a terrifying gale. The evil spirits in the surroundings all revealed terrified expressions and distanced themselves from the Rakshasa king. Crack. Finally, under the Rakshasa king's almost barbaric bombardment, the powerful protective barrier around Yarrow Shangjuan's body shattered like glass. Countless cracks appeared. Seeing this scene, the Rakshasa king's eyes revealed joy. The reason why he spent so much effort to shatter this protective barrier was naturally because he desired to devour Yarrow Shangjuan's flesh. Of course, Yarrow Shangjuan's cultivation base was not high, so the Rakshasa king did not care about Yarrow Shangjuan's divine power at all. What he truly cared about was the divine power of life and death left in Yarrow Shangjuan's body by the twin extremes of life and death. Although most of the divine power of life and death in Yarrow Shangjuan's body had been converted into protective energy, there would still be a portion left in her body. The Rakshasa king's goal was that portion of divine power of life and death left in Yarrow Shangjuan's body. More and more cracks appeared on the protective barrier around Yarrow Shangjuan's body, becoming denser and denser. Finally, with a crisp shattering sound, the protective barrier shattered into countless fragments, revealing Yarrow Shangjuan's helpless and beautiful body. Yarrow Shangjuan's body trembled. Amidst the huge tremors, she faintly woke up. Then, she saw the Rakshasa king draped in skeletons and the Rakshasa king's huge palm in front of her. Especially when she saw the Rakshasa king's ferocious face and the sky-covering palm, Yarrow Shangjuan's beautiful eyes first became confused, then revealed a helpless and miserable expression. Master's protective barrier has also been broken. Today, I'm destined to die, but, forget it, Yarrow Shangjuan softly murmured, but her beautiful eyes regained their calmness. She was not afraid of death. When she was very young, she had experienced death several times, so she was no stranger to death. However, she still had thoughts in her heart. She still had things waiting for her to complete. She felt that dying like this was not worth it. However, now that death was gradually approaching, Yarrow Shangjuan was much calmer. Her eyes became blurred, and her thoughts seemed to have drifted far away. In the dark and gloomy mass grave, she saw a lonely and helpless little girl walking slowly among the countless corpses in the mass grave. The little girl was only wearing a dirty white gown. This white gown was too long, dragging on the ground. The little girl was stumbling as she walked. But even in this mass grave filled with death and decay, the little girl didn't cry. Her tender little face was filled with stubbornness and unyieldingness. Even if she was hungry and ate wild fruits, leftovers, or even rotten flesh, she never cried. She was the only living creature in this mass grave. Until one day, a woman in a white daoist robe descended from the sky. She saw the little girl and everything the little girl had experienced in the mass grave. Thus, the white-robed woman took the little girl away from this mass grave filled with decay and death. "Master, I'm sorry." Yarou Xiangjuan revealed a helpless smile and slowly closed her eyes. However, the moment she was about to close her eyes, she seemed to see a familiar figure. She wanted to open her eyes to see the figure clearly, but she found that her eyelids were very heavy and oppressive. She couldn't control them at all. Then, Yarou Xiangjuan felt a strong arm around her waist. She wanted to struggle, but a familiar voice rang in her ears, causing her to involuntarily give up. "Don't move. It's me. I'll take you away from here." The low and magnetic voice slowly echoed in Yarou Xiangjuan's ears, causing her delicate body to soften. She completely stopped resisting and allowed the arm to hug her. At this moment, the Rakshasa king's outstretched hand grabbed empty air. His huge body couldn't help but stiffen on the spot. Just as he was about to grab Yarou Xiangjuan, a figure moved at lightning speed and grabbed Yarou Xiangjuan before he could and took her away from this place. "Bastard, how dare you steal from me? You've got guts." The Rakshasa king's gaze fell on the back of the white-robed young man who was fleeing in panic. A bloodthirsty light burst forth from his eyes as he suddenly stepped forward. On the other hand, the army of evil spirits was like a swarm of infuriated bees as they swarmed towards Zhuo Wen. The scene was extremely spectacular. Zhuowen looked at the Rakshasa king who was closing in on him from behind and summoned the space-time wheel without hesitation. "Die." The moment Zhuowen summoned the space-time wheel, the Rakshasa king instantly caught up. His huge palm swept over without hesitation and arrived behind Zhuowen in an instant. "Alchemy Emperor Turtle, I'll have to trouble you to block this." After Zhuowen finished speaking, he unceremoniously took out the Alchemy Emperor Turtle again as a shield. The Alchemy Emperor Turtle didn't even have time to react before it immediately felt a terrifying wind whistling toward it. It swallowed all the curses it wanted to say and could only enlarge the Alchemy Emperor furnace to block this attack first. Bang! The sound of metal clashing rang out clearly and shot straight into the sky. The Alchemy Emperor Turtle, who was in the furnace, was extremely unlucky to be in this shaking. It rolled violently and hit walls everywhere. However, it was cursing Zhuowen in its heart. Thump! Thump! The Rakshasa king couldn't help but be pushed back more than 10 steps by the rebound force. He looked at the Alchemy Emperor furnace in front of him in surprise and said, "Alchemy Emperor furnace? You have an Alchemy Emperor furnace on you? Who are you?" "Hey, Rakshasa king, you don't recognize me? Are you treating me like air?" The Alchemy Emperor Turtle resisted the dizziness in his head and crawled out of the Alchemy Emperor furnace. He rolled his dead fish eyes and looked at the Rakshasa king in front of him with some dissatisfaction. As the Rakshasa king's attention was mostly on Zhuowen, he didn't notice the Alchemy Emperor Turtle. Now that the Alchemy Emperor Turtle spoke, he also noticed the Alchemy Emperor Turtle. "It's you, Alchemy Emperor Turtle. You're not dead," the Rakshasa king said in surprise. "It seems that you want me to die." "I won't die. In fact, I'll definitely live much longer than you," the Alchemy Emperor Turtle said in a very suicidal manner. "You're going to die now. Don't think that you're my opponent just because you have an Alchemy Emperor furnace. You're just a tool for the Alchemy Emperor fire. Other than being a little hard, you're just a piece of trash." The Rakshasa king sneered. He clenched his right hand into a fist and blasted it toward the Alchemy Emperor Turtle. Although the Alchemy Emperor Turtle was stubborn, he knew that he was definitely not a match for the Rakshasa king. Chapter 24-21. Escape. Alright. Zhuowen took Yarou Shangjuan onto the space-time wheel and grabbed the Pill Emperor turtle in his hand. He turned into a stream of light and rushed towards the south. Luosha King missed. He stared at the space-time wheel and frowned. Space-time power again. How can this kid's flying divine tool be so fast? But do you think you can get rid of me like this? As he spoke, Devil King took large strides forward. His speed was extremely fast, and he instantly shook off the evil spirit army behind him. Luosha King had not been serious before. Now that he was serious, his speed had reached a terrifying level. On the space-time wheel, Zhuowen saw that he had not shaken off Luosha King. Instead, Luosha King was getting closer and closer. His pupils involuntarily shrank. Damn it, Luosha King is still so fast. Zhuowen, can't your lousy flying divine tool continue to accelerate? The Pill Emperor turtle could not help but curse. Zhuowen was speechless. He took out a crystal that looked like a heart from his spirit ring. This was the space-time heart that Zhuowen had obtained. Space-time wheel was made up of the core components of the space-time disk. As soon as it was refined, its speed had reached a terrifying level. Even LV Haotian, who was at the life enlightenment realm, might not be able to catch up. Therefore, Zhuowen usually did not use the space-time wheel. But now that Luosha King's speed was much faster than LV Haotian's, Zhuowen had no choice but to use the space-time wheel. The space-time wheel's main function was not the powerful space-time power inside, but the space-time wheel could double the speed of the flying divine tool. Zhuowen's space-time wheel was refined from the core components of the space-time disk. It was undoubtedly the most compatible with the space-time wheel. Therefore, the space-time wheel's acceleration effect was the best. When Zhuowen placed the space-time wheel's core position, the space-time wheel's speed suddenly increased by several times. Luosha King, who was getting closer, was gradually pulled away by the space-time wheel. In the end, Luosha King was completely shaken off by the space-time wheel. Phew, kid, this flying divine artifact of yours isn't bad. Its speed is actually so terrifying. The Pill Emperor turtle looked at the ordinary-looking space-time wheel in surprise. He hadn't expected Zhuowen's space-time wheel to be so fast. Even Zhuowen was extremely surprised. This was the first time he had placed the space-time heart on the space-time wheel. He did not expect the effect to be so obvious. How many evil spirits are there in Death Valley? Zhuowen suddenly asked solemnly. The Elixir Monarch turtle pondered for a moment, then let out a hollow laugh and said, "There are so many that I can't even count them all. After all, these evil spirits can actually be created by the Rakshasa King. I'm afraid it won't be a problem for them to occupy the entire Divine Pill secret realm." Zhuowen's pupils shrank. He didn't expect that there would be so many evil spirits. In other words, the Divine Pill secret realm would soon fall into the hands of the evil spirit army. We have to get out in advance. Let's go to the exit first. After saying that, Zhuowen controlled the space-time reincarnation and flew towards the exit of the Divine Pill secret realm. Before entering the Divine Pill secret realm, the second elder had already told Zhuowen the location of the exit of the Divine Pill secret realm. There were a total of 3 exits in the Divine Pill secret realm. This time, Zhuowen was heading towards the closest exit. After Zhuowen had shaken off the Rakshasa King also stopped. Damn it, this human actually has such a powerful flying divine tool. I was too careless. However, now that the Divine Pill secret realm has been sealed, as long as they are still in the Divine Pill secret realm, these 2 human cultivators won't be able to escape. The Rakshasa King coldly snorted, then walked back. He was now too far away from the evil spirit army. He had to go back and command those evil spirits. Otherwise, those evil spirits would fall into chaos if no one commanded them for a long time. Far away in the south, a blue line landed on top of a snow-covered mountain range, revealing a dispirited, beautiful figure. "Senior sister, I'm sorry. It's all my fault. I would rather sacrifice myself. Why were you so stupid to save me?" This was an ordinary-looking young woman. At this moment, her face was covered in tears, and she was crying miserably. "No, I have to find the palace master. Now, Only the palace master has the ability to save senior sister. This woman's eyes were filled with determination. Zhu Rui, why are you here? Just as this woman was about to stand up, a surprised voice came, causing her body to stiffen. Palace master, is it really you? The woman suddenly turned around and looked at the beautiful woman with a veil in front of her. Her beautiful eyes were filled with tears. This beautiful woman with a veil was none other than Palace Master Jingyun. She happened to pass by this place, and her divine sense swept over Zhu Rui, so she deliberately stopped. Where's Xiangjuan? Palace Master Jingyun looked at Zhu Rui, who was crying miserably, and frowned. She had a bad feeling in her heart. Palace Master, I'm sorry. Senior sister, Zhu Rui thought of the sad thing and cried again. Fortunately, she was stopped by Palace Master Jingyun. Then, under the instruction of Palace Master Jingyun, Zhu Rui told her everything that had happened before. After Palace Master Jingyun heard it, her expression changed greatly. She secretly cursed, and with a wave of her hand, she also took Zhu Rui into the flower and rushed towards the north. I hope I can still make it in time. I really didn't expect such a big thing to happen in Death Valley. Palace Master Jingyun frowned. Although she knew that Yarou Xiangjuan had the divine power of life and death left by the Palace Master of the Intentional Desire Palace, from Zhu Rui's description, the strength of the 300-meter-tall giant was unfathomable. It even showed signs of surpassing the life enlightenment realm experts. Therefore, Palace Master Jingyun was now very worried about Yarou Xiangjuan's safety. After a while, Palace Master Jingyun saw countless black dots in the distance in the north. She knew that these should be evil spirits. Among these countless evil spirits, she also saw Luo Shouqing, who stood out like a crane among chickens. Where's Xiangjuan? Palace Master Jingyun didn't hold back at all as she released the powerful aura of the life enlightenment realm. The terrifying aura was like countless storms, crushing all the evil spirits around her into nothingness. Palace Master Jingyun's beautiful eyes looked at Luo Shouqing with extreme hostility. Luo Shouqing looked at Palace Master Jingyun, licked his lips and said, Life Enlightenment Realm? I didn't expect that there would be a Life Enlightenment Realm cultivator in this divine pill secret realm. Cake, I just happen to need the flesh and blood of a Life Enlightenment Realm cultivator to nourish myself. As for that Xiangjuan you're talking about, could it be the little girl I took care of before? Haha, that little girl has already become my meal. I have to say, the divine power of life and death is really delicious. Saying that, Luo Shouqing sneered and punched out, mercilessly towards Palace Master Jingyun. Chapter 24-22. Mandala's Tombboom. Luo Shouqing didn't hold back at all in this punch. The wind from his punch swept across the sky, causing the entire sky to change color. It was as if a terrifying storm was brewing. Palace Master Jingyun's beautiful eyes narrowed into slits, revealing an extremely solemn expression. Palace Master Jingyun's jade-like hands formed an orchid shape, and the mysterious life divine energy gathered in her jade-like hands. She struck across the air, and countless illusory images of flower petals drifted in the void. Bang! 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 In just an instant, Luo Shouqing's fist energy and Palace Master Jingyun's orchid-shaped fingers collided in the void. They collided 3 times in an instant, and each collision caused an extremely ear-piercing boom. Thump! Thump! Palace Master Jingyun let out a muffled groan and took more than 10 steps back. Luo Shouqing's huge body shook slightly, but he only took a few steps back. From the result of this exchange, it was clear who was stronger and who was weaker. Interesting. Your strength is stronger than the average life enlightenment realm cultivator. It seems that your flesh and blood must be more delicious than the average life enlightenment realm cultivator. Luo Shouqing licked his lips, and his eyes revealed a greedy look. It was as if the person in front of him was a peerless delicacy. Palace Master Jingyun's beautiful eyes frowned, and she said coldly, Where is Xiangjuan? I don't sense her aura on you. Palace Master Jingyun began to calm down. Yarou Xiangjuan's position in the 6 Desires Heavenly Palace was very special. She naturally had the responsibility to protect Yarou Xiangjuan, and she had also placed her own mark on Yao Shengjuan. She could only sense this mark within a certain range. Even if Yao Shengjuan died in the hands of Luo Shouqing, she could still find Yao Shengjuan's body through this mark. However, she didn't sense anything nearby. Clearly, Yao Shengjuan wasn't nearby, and it was very likely that she was still alive. Thinking of this, Palace Master Jingyun felt a little better. If Yao Shengjuan had died, she wouldn't have the face to see the Palace Master of the Six Desires Heavenly Palace. She might even be punished. Luo Shouqing didn't answer Palace Master Jingyun's question. Palace Master Jingyun was a delicious meal in his eyes, and he wouldn't let such a meal pass him by. Keep this person. Luo Shouqing let out a low roar. Instantly, the countless evil spirit army behind him charged towards Palace Master Jingyun as if they had gone mad. Palace Master Jingyun released her aura without holding back, forming a terrifying defensive circle that caused the evil spirits to explode one after another when they got close to her. However, the number of evil spirits was simply too great. They came one after another, causing Palace Master Jingyun's energy to be greatly depleted. Luo Shouqing didn't care about the life and death of those evil spirits. Since he had so many evil spirits here, he didn't feel any heartache even if thousands or tens of thousands of them died. As long as he could use the evil spirits as cannon fodder to exhaust Palace Master Jingyun, he was naturally willing to do so. Palace Master Jingyun also realized the Rakshasa King's purpose, and her expression turned ugly. Now she was sure that Yao Shengjuan was still alive. As for her specific whereabouts, she was still not sure. In addition, the Rakshasa King's strength was too terrifying. She would be at a disadvantage if she were to fight such an existence head-on. Now, she was also thinking of retreating. Let's leave this place first. We'll find Shengjuan when the time comes. Thinking of this, Palace Master Jingyun formed a seal with her jade-like hands. Instantly, red flower petals began to float around her. More and more flower petals floated out. Instantly, a sea of flowers was formed around Palace Master Jingyun. It was boundless, just like a sea of red. The sea of flowers revolved around Palace Master Jingyun and began to rotate. Moreover, the rotation speed was increasing. The tearing force produced by the rotation of the sea of flowers was extremely terrifying. The evil spirits that pounced on her were torn into pieces the moment they touched the sea of flowers. Almost none of the evil spirits were able to break through the range of the sea of flowers. After clearing the troublesome evil spirits around her, Palace Master Jingyun tapped her jade-like feet and quickly flew towards the south. Luo Shouqing had already seen through Palace Master Jingyun's intention. Seeing that Palace Master Jingyun was planning to escape, he snorted coldly. His palm, which was like a cattail leaf fan, arrived first and heavily struck the path that Palace Master Jingyun was escaping on. Palace Master Jingyun felt the terrifying palm wind. She knew that if she continued to escape on this path, she would definitely collide with that huge palm. Helpless, Palace Master Jingyun could only retreat and avoid that palm. I said, "You are now my prey. Don't try to escape." Luo Shouqing sneered coldly. The palm that was striking down suddenly changed its direction and swept towards Palace Master Jingyun. Palace Master Jingyun sighed softly. Her jade-like hand grabbed at the void. Unknowingly, a long sword with strange patterns appeared in her palm. This long sword was engraved with all kinds of different patterns. For example, there were roses, lilies, daffodils, and other common flowers. There were also other rare flowers such as begonia, devil's snare, and so on. Zimai. Palace Master Jingyun held the sword in her jade-like hand and fiercely slashed down from above. The sword light was like water. It actually turned into a huge purple rose and descended in front of that huge palm. The moment the purple rose landed on the palm seemed to be frozen and completely stopped in mid-air. Palace Master Jingyun's jade-like hand did not stop. She slashed out again and shouted, "Devil's Snare's tomb." This sword light turned into countless devil's snare flowers. Under the countless devil's snare flowers, a huge tombstone appeared. This huge tombstone with the devil's snare flowers floating on it was like an arrow that was released from a bow. It heavily smashed into that palm. Instantly, The huge palm was blasted away. Palace Master Jingyun slashed out several more times. Every slash was a different flower. They looked beautiful and extremely powerful. The moment she blasted away the palm, Palace Master Jingyun seized the opportunity and leaped away. She wanted to escape from this place. However, Luosha King was obviously not that easy to fool. Luosha King coldly snorted. His empty left hand suddenly pulled out the huge bone sword from his back. Rumble. The moment Luosha King pulled out the bone sword, he fiercely swung it in the direction Palace Master Jingyun left. The bone sword was too long. Palace Master Jingyun was still within the range of the bone sword. She did not even have time to react before she was shocked by the wind created by the swing of the bone sword. Palace Master Jingyun did not even think about it. She immediately raised the long sword in her hand and met the attack. The bone sword was too fast. Palace Master Jingyun could only use this posture to block the attack. Bang! 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 The bone sword hit the long sword. In an instant, there were 3 strange sounds. It was as if the bone sword had hit the long sword 3 times in an instant. Palace Master Jingyun's beautiful face changed greatly. The bone sword had only hit once. The other 2 times were the instant the bone sword touched the long sword. 2 hidden forces were released when the bone sword hit the long sword. Chapter 24-23. Flower Thistle. Palace Master Jingyun spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated. 100 Flower Thistle. The moment she spat out blood, Palace Mistress Jingyun immediately used her strongest move, 100 Flower Thistle. Palace Master Jingyun's divine sword was called 100 Flower Sword. There were hundreds of flower souls engraved on it, and each flower soul was very powerful. Palace Master Jingyun could mobilize the power of the flower souls at any time. 100 Flower Thistle was a move that could mobilize the power of hundreds of flower souls at the same time. It could instantly unleash a terrifying move. All kinds of flower souls poured out of the 100 Flower Sword, forming a boundless sea of flowers. All kinds of flower souls formed a colorful sea of flowers. The massive sea of flowers was constantly expanding. The bone sword that had been shot out was sent flying by the sea of flowers. As for the Rakshasa King, he was involuntarily pushed back by the powerful energy. His eyes revealed a look of astonishment. The sea of flowers grew bigger and bigger, and it started to engulf the evil spirits in the surroundings. Large numbers of evil spirits died, as if they were being cleaned up. Rakshasa King's heart ached when he saw this. Helpless, Rakshasa King could only order the evil spirit army to retreat to avoid the power of 100 Flower Thistle. Even Rakshasa King was afraid and did not continue to move forward. Even Rakshasa King felt the power of 100 Flower Thistle was terrifying. If he forced his way into the sea of flowers, he would definitely be severely injured. Rakshasa King would definitely not do that. This human female cultivator is quite skilled. Wait until the power of this move gradually recedes. I'll capture this human female cultivator and slowly enjoy her delicious flesh and the essence of the illusory sky bridge. Rakshasa King licked his lips. Instead, his desire for Palace Master Jingyun became even more fervent. The sea of flowers did not last for long. It gradually withered and scattered. Rakshasa King snorted coldly and slashed the bone sword on the sea of flowers. A powerful swordlight poured out like water and scattered the sea of flowers. However, what made Rakshasa King frown was that he did not see Palace Master Jingyun's figure after the sea of flowers receded. Bastard, I've been tricked. That cunning human female cultivator used that move just now mainly to deceive me. Rakshasa King's face was gloomy as he quickly figured out the details of the situation. However, he quickly calmed down. He knew that Palace Master Jingyun must have suffered heavy injuries after fighting with him. As long as he completely occupied the Divine Pill secret realm, whether it was Palace Master Jingyun or that Zhuoan, they would all be his. Continue marching. After the Rakshasa King finished speaking, he led the army of evil spirits and continued heading south. As for the other cultivators in the Divine Pill secret realm, they were about to suffer a great misfortune. At the edge of the southwestern region, there was an extremely large wilderness. At the end of this wilderness stood a tall tower. The appearance of this tower was very similar to the pill tower in the outside world. There was a golden flame burning at the top of the tower. If one did not look carefully, they would have mistaken it for a pill tower at first glance. However, the cultivators in the divine pill secret realm knew that this tower was not the pill tower, but the exit that was connected to the pill tower. Of course, since the entire divine pill secret realm was so big, it was impossible for there to be only one exit. Other than this exit, there were two other exits in the divine pill secret realm. When Zhuowen arrived near the tower on the spacetime wheel, he immediately noticed that something was wrong. He landed the spacetime wheel in a remote valley. Zhuowen gently helped Yarou Shengjuan up and got off the spacetime wheel. Then, he put her away. At this moment, Yarou Shengjuan's condition was much better than before. However, her beautiful face was still pale, as if she had not recovered from a serious illness. Zhuowen, thank you. You saved me again this time. Yarou Shengjuan gritted her teeth as she looked at Zhuowen with her beautiful eyes. She said with a complicated expression. Zhuowen smiled and said, "You and I are friends, and I happened to be near you. When I saw that you were in danger, I couldn't just stand by and watch you die." When Yarou Shengjuan saw that Zhuowen did not have any other intentions, she sighed in her heart. She was slightly disappointed, but soon, she pulled herself together and looked at the tower in front of her. "Are you planning to leave the divine pill secret realm?" "Yes, now that all the evil spirits in the Death Valley have come out, and even the terrifying Luosha King has broken out of the seal, the divine pill secret realm is no longer a safe place. Staying here will only lead to disaster," Zhuowen said seriously. "That's really the Luosha King, but I've heard from my master that the Luosha King in the divine pill secret realm was sealed by a Dao-confirming expert. Generally speaking, it's impossible to break the seal, so how did the Luosha King come out?" Yarou Shengjuan couldn't help but ask in surprise. She knew quite a lot about the divine pill secret realm, and she also knew a little about the origin of the Death Valley. When she saw the giant before, she had already suspected that it was the Luosha King. However, when she remembered what her master had told her, she became hesitant. Now that Zhuowen had directly pointed out that it was the Luosha King, that was why she was so surprised. "That is indeed the Luosha King. As for how he broke out of the seal, I have no idea. Moreover, this Luosha King is very powerful. Although it seems like he is only at the life-enlightening realm, this Luosha King has been sealed for too long, so his strength has decreased. As long as we give the Luosha King enough time, his strength will continue to increase. At that time, we won't be able to fight against him. Therefore, leaving the divine pill secret realm now and completely sealing it is the best way to do so," Zhuowen said in a deep voice. Yarou Shengjuan nodded her head, but her beautiful eyes were filled with worry. "My martial aunt is still in the divine pill secret realm. Do you want me to inform her?" "You can inform her. If she can come, it will be of great help to me." Zhuowen nodded his head and said. Palace Master Jing Yun was a life-enlightening realm expert. If he had the help of such an expert, it would be much easier for Zhuowen to escape from the divine pill secret realm. Although the exit was right in front of him, Zhuowen was not stupid. Previously, he had already thought about it. If he was the Luosha King, what would be the first thing he would do? That's right, the first thing the Luosha King would think of was to immediately seal the exit and prevent the cultivators who entered from leaving in advance. Moreover, when Zhuowen had just landed, he had paid special attention to the tower. Indeed, he had sharply discovered that the surface of the tower had been tampered with by someone. Perhaps, there was a very powerful restriction on the surface of the tower. Zhuowen had even discovered a very familiar aura from the restriction on the surface of the tower. With just a glance, he had recognized this aura. It was the aura of the Luosha King. "I have already informed my martial aunt, but she didn't reply to me. Are we going to enter the tower and leave this secret realm now?" Yarou Shengjuan asked Zhuowen. "Yes, follow me. We will first explore the tower. After we understand the situation, we will leave this place." Zhuowen nodded his head and signaled Yarou Shengjuan to wait here. After that, he flew towards the tower in front of them. Zhuowen was very cautious. Although the tower looked calm on the surface, he could smell that something was wrong. Chapter 24-24. Death Aura Whoosh. The moment Zhuowen reached the bottom of the tower, the soil beneath his feet suddenly flipped open, and a pair of green hands grabbed Zhuowen's ankles and pulled him down. Zhuowen clearly did not expect someone to suddenly attack him from below, so he was caught off guard. Fortunately, Zhuowen's reaction was astonishing. He pulled out the king's sword and slashed at the pair of green hands. The pair of green hands sensed the danger of the king's sword, and with a sneer, they retracted their hands and drilled back into the ground. The king's sword's attack missed. Human cultivator, your cultivation is not high, but your reaction is not bad. A devilish voice slowly came from behind Zhuowen, and then a graceful figure broke out of the ground behind him. Zhuowen turned around to look at the graceful figure, and his eyes narrowed. The figure in front of him was 10 feet tall, and its appearance was extremely similar to the Rakshasa that Zhuowen met before. However, that Rakshasa was a male, and the one in front of Zhuowen was a female. Rakshasa? Zhuowen's eyes were gloomy. The female Rakshasa looked at the white-clothed youth in front of her in astonishment. She was clearly surprised that the white-clothed youth could recognize her. When Zhuowen rescued Yarou Xiangjuan from the Rakshasa king, the female Rakshasa and the other 2 Rakshasas had already left according to the Rakshasa king's orders, and headed to the 3 exits to seal them. Therefore, the female Rakshasa did not recognize Zhuowen. Zhuowen realized that something was wrong. He had not seen this female Rakshasa beside the Rakshasa king before, which meant that she had already left the Rakshasa king, or was sent out by the Rakshasa king. Zhuowen looked at the tower behind him, and his eyes gradually became gloomy. He did not look carefully before, but now that he looked, he realized that there was a powerful seal on the tower's surface. This seal had the evil aura of the Rakshasa king, and it was obviously the Rakshasa king's power that was causing trouble. How do you know who I am? The female Rakshasa chuckled, then slowly walked towards Zhuowen, the killing intent in her eyes almost tangible. Zhuowen looked at the female Rakshasa coldly and said, "Get lost. Otherwise, you won't be able to leave later." The female Rakshasa before him was even weaker than the Rakshasa he had encountered before. If it was the Zhuowen of that time, he might have been afraid of this female Rakshasa, but now that he had obtained LV Haotian's mysterious life lotus, Zhuowen was not afraid of any existence below the enlightened life realm. In fact, Zhuowen did not even need to use the mysterious life lotus to deal with the female Luosha. His space-time ability alone was enough to make her suffer. The female Rakshasa looked as if she had just heard the funniest joke in the world. She looked at Zhuowen as if he was an idiot and said coldly, "You told me to get lost. An ant-like human like you?" Zhuowen was too lazy to talk nonsense with this female Rakshasa. The sense of urgency in his heart was getting stronger and stronger. According to the Pill Emperor Turtle, the peak strength of the Rakshasa king was actually at the life and death extremities. Due to the seal, its strength had dropped to the enlightened life realm. However, Zhuowen noticed that after the Rakshasa king absorbed the flesh and blood of the cultivators, its strength was constantly recovering. He was now afraid that after the Rakshasa king swept through the entire divine pill secret realm and slaughtered all the cultivators, its strength would probably recover by a lot. At that time, Zhuowen did not need to think to know that he would be no match for the Rakshasa king. Therefore, he had to leave this place as soon as possible. Thinking of this, Zhuowen directly took out the phagocytosis and attacked the female Rakshasa. The moment the phagocytosis was taken out, it grew from the size of a palm to 100 feet in size. It was as big as a mountain and mercilessly attacked the female Rakshasa. The female Rakshasa's body was very tough. She took a step forward and punched the phagocytosis. However, after the phagocytosis had fused with 2 Dao fruits, its power was extraordinary. Not only was the female Rakshasa unable to send the phagocytosis flying, but she also suffered a powerful backlash and could not help but take a few steps back. The female Rakshasa looked at the phagocytosis in front of her in surprise. Only now did she realize that the white-clothed youth in front of her did not seem to be an ordinary cultivator. Just as the female Rakshasa was surprised by the power of the phagocytosis, Zhuowen took a step forward with his right foot. The king's sword in his hand mercilessly used the Big Bang technique, distorting and collapsing the spacetime around the female Rakshasa. With the help of the powerful destructive power of the spacetime distortion, the female Rakshasa screamed and spat out a mouthful of blood. She was sent flying backward. Run! The female Rakshasa's eyes were filled with fear. She had just awakened from the seal and her strength was much weaker than when she was at her peak. She knew that she was no match for this white-clothed youth, so she immediately wanted to retreat. The instant the female Rakshasa was about to flee, Zhuowen appeared behind her as if he could predict her future. Then, he slashed out with the king's sword again. At this moment, a grey energy emerged on the surface of the king's sword. This grey energy carried the aura of death. Ah! It's the aura of death. Don't kill me. The instant the king's sword wrapped in grey energy slashed at the female Rakshasa, she screamed again and again. Her eyes were filled with fear as she stared at the grey energy on the surface of the king's sword. Zhuowen's expression changed. He exerted force with his right hand and the king's sword mercilessly stood on the female Rakshasa's body. Then, the female Rakshasa's tough body was cut in half by the king's sword as if it was tofu. Huh! What's going on? Zhuowen looked at the female Rakshasa who was easily killed with a suspicious look. Is it because of the aura of death covering the surface of the king's sword? Zhuowen looked at the grey energy on the surface of the king's sword. This grey energy was the aura of death that he had obtained in the bone world and refined with the power of faith. Originally, the aura of death was refined into a thin needle by Zhuowen and was hidden in Zhuowen's divine soul. But just now, when he attacked the female Rakshasa, this strand of aura of death in his divine soul unexpectedly swept out on its own and covered the surface of the king's sword. Huh! The energy of the aura of death is increasing. Zhuowen looked at the grey energy on the surface of the king's sword again and found that this grey energy was much more powerful than before. Now, Zhuowen realized that the increase of the aura of death might have an inseparable relationship with killing a Rakshasa. In other words, after killing a Rakshasa, the energy of the aura of death increased. Moreover, this aura of death attached to the surface of the king's sword and returned to Zhuowen's divine soul without being controlled by him. This made Zhuowen somewhat helpless. It seems that this aura of death has a very strong restraining effect on Rakshasa and evil spirits. If I use the aura of death to deal with the Rakshasa king, will it be twice the result with half the effort? Zhuowen muttered in a low voice. Chapter 24-25. Pill fire dependent. Zhuowen's eyes flickered, but he did not explain the origin of the death chi. Just as the Pill Emperor Turtle said, the death chi in his body was too little. It might be enough to deal with the Rakshasa and evil spirits, but it would not be so easy to deal with the Rakshasa king. Let me see if I can get out of here, Zhuowen said as he entered the tower. When he reached the top of the tower, he found that the teleportation formation at the top of the tower had been destroyed. Moreover, the Rakshasa king's power had been placed in the tower by the female Rakshasa. The Rakshasa king's power was a great threat to cultivators below the life enlightenment realm, but it was not much of a threat to the current Zhuowen. Zhuowen's main concern was the destroyed teleportation formation. Since the teleportation formation was destroyed, it meant that the exit was completely useless. Moreover, the runes on the teleportation formation were extremely complicated. With Zhuowen's current level of array Dao, he could only barely understand them. If he wanted to repair the teleportation formation, the success rate would be very low, and it would take a lot of time. But now that he was in a critical situation, how could he have so much time to repair the teleportation formation? If Ma Yujie was here, he might be able to repair the teleportation formation in a short period of time, right? Zhuowen's eyes darkened. He could not help but think of Ma Yujie. Ma Yujie was a level 9 divine array master, and his array Dao level was much higher than his. Pill Emperor Turtle, can you repair the teleportation formation? Zhuowen asked the Pill Emperor Turtle tentatively. Do you think I'm omnipotent? This teleportation formation was set up by you outsiders, and I don't know anything about arrays. Aren't you forcing me to repair it? The Pill Emperor Turtle rolled his eyes. Zhuowen sighed and left the tower. At this moment, Yarou Xiangjuan was waiting for Zhuowen at the bottom of the tower. "How is it?" Yarou Xiangjuan looked at Zhuowen, who did not look too good, and asked softly. Zhuowen said helplessly, "The teleportation formation at the exit was destroyed. It can't be used anymore." Yarou Xiangjuan fell silent, and then said, "There are 2 other exits. Maybe the other 2 exits will work." Zhuowen shook his head and said, "The other 2 exits should have been destroyed as well. What we can think of, Rakshasa King must have thought of as well." Hearing that, Yarou Xiangjuan fell completely silent. Zhuowen was right. Since Luosha King had sealed off the exit, he would not have sealed off just one. He would have sealed off all 3 exits. "What should we do now?" Yarou Xiangjuan looked at Zhuowen. She was at a loss. "Let's stay in this pagoda for now. You continue to contact Palace Master Jing Yun. I still have a clone in the outside world. I'll go and ask the Pill Tower's 2nd elder. Perhaps there are other exits," Zhuowen said in a low voice. Hearing this, Yarou Xiangjuan's eyes lit up. "Naturally," she agreed. In the outside world, the surroundings of the Pill Tower were still bustling with noise and excitement. The elders of the Pill Tower had all gathered on the 10th level of the Pill Tower. The black-robed Zhuowen sat cross-legged in front of the alchemy fire. He opened his eyes and looked at the 8 elders of the Pill Tower who had gathered in front of him. At this moment, the alchemy fire behind him was burning fiercely. It was full of vitality and no longer looked as dispirited as it did at the beginning. During this period of time, the black-robed Zhuowen had almost tirelessly refined the calamity crystal load. His strength had grown extremely fast. Of course, the interval between the calamity had also been greatly shortened. Previously, before his main body entered the Divine Pill Secret Realm, the black-robed Zhuowen had already passed through the 9th calamity. Now, half a year had passed. The black-robed Zhuowen had broken through again and again with the help of the abundant calamity crystal load. Yesterday, he had passed through the 14th calamity. During this period of time, the alchemy fire had obtained many benefits because of the black-robed Zhuowen passing through the calamity. It had absorbed a large amount of energy from the calamity. The reason why the Zhuowen could pass through the calamity so unscrupulously was naturally because of the alchemy fire. The alchemy fire's existence had absorbed most of the energy from the calamity, which made it much easier for the black-robed Zhuowen to pass through the calamity. If it were in the past, the Zhuowen would definitely not dare to cultivate so quickly. After all, every calamity was an extremely troublesome problem for him. However, now that he had the alchemy fire, he obviously did not have to worry about this. Moreover, the Zhuowen also found that the alchemy fire seemed to have developed a sense of dependence on him after absorbing the energy from the calamity. It almost never left his body. As long as the black-robed Zhuowen left the Pill Tower now, the alchemy fire would probably take the initiative to leave with him. Whoosh! At this moment, the alchemy fire leaped from the huge brazier and landed lightly on the black-robed Zhuowen's shoulder. It curled up on the black-robed Zhuowen's shoulder like a kitten, looking extremely lazy. When the 8 elders saw this scene, the corners of their eyes twitched. Naturally, they were very happy that the alchemy fire was rejuvenated. However, now that the alchemy fire was relying on the black-robed Zhuowen so much, this was not what they wanted to see. The alchemy fire was the foundation of the Pill Tower, and the black-robed Zhuowen was not a member of the Pill Tower. Now that the alchemy fire was relying on Zhuowen so much, what if this Zhuowen left the Pill Tower in the future? If the alchemy fire forced itself to follow Zhuowen, this would be a huge loss to the Pill Tower. In the end, the 2nd elder broke the silence. "Zhuo Xiaoyu, why have you gathered us here?" the 2nd elder asked with a smile. The black-robed Zhuowen's eyes were solemn as he said in a deep voice, "Something big has happened in the Divine Pill Secret Land." As soon as the words came out, the surrounding elders were surprised. Among them, the 7th elder sneered and said, "How can something big happen in the Divine Pill Secret Land? This is not the first time that the Divine Pill Secret Land has opened. It has always been fine in the past, and this time is no exception." Zhuowen looked at the 7th elder indifferently. He knew that the 7th elder was unhappy with what he had done before, so he was also unhappy with Zhuowen. At this moment, it was not strange for him to refute Zhuowen. The second elder frowned and waved his hand to interrupt the seventh elder. Then, he looked at Zhuowen and asked sincerely, "Zhuo Xiaoyu, what happened?" The second elder knew that the black-robed young man in front of him was only Zhuowen's clone, and Zhuowen's original body had entered the Divine Pill Secret Land. Regarding the Divine Pill Secret Land, Zhuowen would not speak carelessly. Zhuowen nodded and immediately told the second elder everything that had happened in the Divine Pill Secret Land. When Zhuowen finished, the second elder and the other 8 elders were all shocked. The seventh elder stood up and looked at Zhuowen in an extremely unfriendly manner and said, "You are not talking nonsense, are you? How could the Rakshasa king break the seal? And how could the evil spirit army in the Death Valley leave the Death Valley without permission?" The other elders were also discussing spiritedly, and their words were full of disbelief. The Divine Pill Secret Land had existed for a very long time, and the Pill Tower had also recorded that the terrifying Rakshasa King was sealed in the core of the Divine Pill Secret Land. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.